Chapter 2078. In the evening, the sun was setting in the west. Chu Li and the 6 elders sat on the peak of a mountain and watched the sun slowly sink into the west. It was magnificent yet poignant, making them emotional. The older they were, the more they felt about the sunset. Chu Li did not feel anything. He was just in a daze, thinking about his own matters. After being in the Flying Heaven sect for so long, other than learning the Flying Heaven demon technique, he did not gain much. He was not qualified to pry into the Flying Heaven sect's formation, and the path to power was still far away. He felt that he had not made enough contributions, and his understanding of the entire heavenly demonic realm was not deep enough. He needed more experience to understand more and find the weakness of the heavenly demonic realm. He suddenly had a little ambition. If he could single-handedly stir up internal strife in the heavenly demonic realm, they would not have the time to join forces with Azura to fight against the Grandmaster. That would be his true ability. Unfortunately, this was not something that could be achieved just by thinking about it. It needed to be done bit by bit, and it also needed enough luck. Otherwise, it would be difficult to achieve. But at least it was a general direction. An old man suddenly frowned, pursed his lips, and let out a long whistle. A black dot suddenly appeared in the sky. Then, a male eagle flew over and landed on the elder's shoulder. Its eyes were like lightning, as if it could shoot through a person's body. Its hook-like claws gripped the elder's shoulder tightly. It looked extremely terrifying. Such a majestic male eagle was rare. Its feathers seemed to be coated with a layer of oil, shining under the sunset. Its eyes were intelligent and its gaze was like lightning, and its movements were as fast as lightning. The elder had a protective energy barrier, so it was not scratched by the eagle's claws. He calmly untied the bamboo tube from his leg, and took out the letter inside. He opened it and read it, then passed it to the elder beside him. The elder looked at it and passed it to the person beside him. After the 6 of them read it, it finally appeared in Chu Li's hand. Chu Li glanced at it and looked up. "Elders, since the sect leader has summoned us, let's go. I'm fine. It's too dangerous to leave you alone." The elder with the divine eagle on his shoulder said, "The Profound Heart sect is eyeing us. If we're not careful, we'll fall into their ambush." Chu Li asked, "Elders, have you sensed the Profound Heart sect?" The 6 of them shook their heads. They also felt that it was strange. Why did the Profound Heart sect ignore Chu Li and only find trouble with the other disciples of the Profound Heart sect? They did not even follow him, as if they did not see Chu Li. The 7 of them were a huge target. It was impossible for them not to see it. There was only one reason: the Profound Heart sect had temporarily given up on killing Chu Li. Chu Li said, "They won't care about me for the time being. Even if the 6 elders leave, as long as you leave quietly, they won't dare to be careless. They will think that the 6 elders have turned from the light to the dark side." "I see." They hesitated for a moment and looked at the old man carrying the divine eagle. The old man said in a deep voice, "Since that's the case, then all right. We'll take our leave first and come back to find you as soon as possible." Chu Li smiled. "You don't have to look for me. After I deliver the letter to the Heavenly Water sect, I'll return to the sect directly." "All right." The 6 of them nodded slowly. With the void transfer technique, it was not difficult to directly transfer from the Heavenly Water sect to the Flying Heaven sect. It would only take 2 or 3 transfers, so there was no need to worry about the Profound Heart sect being a threat. Chu Li watched them leave and let out a long sigh of relief. Although it was safer with them by his side, it was also extremely restricted. They were afraid of giving themselves away. After all, he was not the real Wu Yuanzi. It was very possible that he would inadvertently give himself away. Those who were able to become elders were all elites and extremely intelligent. Once he gave himself away and aroused their suspicions, the consequences would be unpredictable. He looked at the setting sun and watched it gradually sink below the mountain. Dusk came and the tired birds around him returned to the forest. His heart was at peace. Suddenly, he heard a faint shout that came with the wind. When he activated the omniscient mirror, he instantly saw two people chasing each other. They were treading on the treetops like two wisps of smoke. Chu smiled. What a coincidence! The shout was heard again. The one with the surname Murong, you're too shameless. Follow me back. A low and hoarse voice followed. Or else die. I won't listen to you even if I die. The beautiful voice was heard again. Chu shook his head and suddenly appeared beside Qin Mengyun, who was running away. He smiled. Miss Qin, what a coincidence. It's you. Qin Mengyun was dressed in an emerald gown. Her hair was messy and she looked a little disheveled, but it did not diminish her beauty. Instead, she looked more lovely and naive, which made people feel pity for her. Behind her, there was a young man who was chasing her closely. He had a mediocre appearance and a medium build, but his movement technique was extremely fast. His triangular eyes were emitting a sharp light that made people not dare to look at him directly. He stared at Qin Mengyun, showing his determination to get her. Chu asked, Miss Qin, why are you running? That guy is AB** starred. Qin Mengyun scoffed. Can you help? Chu nodded. You're young Master Meng's junior sister. Of course you can't not help him. Do you want to chase him away? We can't chase him away. It's better to escape. Qin Mengyun shook her head. Chu was surprised. Is his martial arts very high? He's Murong Cho from the Sword Demon sect. Qin Mengyun scoffed. Chu was stunned and revealed a puzzled expression. He had never heard of this name before, but looking at Qin Mengyun's expression, this Murong Cho should be a powerful and famous person. He should have heard of him before. Qin Mengyun said, We can't defeat him, but the Flying Heaven sect's flying demon technique is very powerful. We can escape. Chu extended his hand. Then let's run. You've cultivated the flying demon technique. Qin Mengyun smiled. Chu nodded. Qin Mengyun hurriedly put her small hand into his big hand. Then let's run. Chu pulled Qin Mengyun and his body suddenly sped up. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared in front of Murong Cho. Murong Cho let out a long roar and slowly pulled out his long sword. All of a sudden, a cold gleam shot out of his long sword. Then, he suddenly sped up and turned into a shadow that chased after Chu. Like a flash of light, he arrived behind Chu and Qin Mengyun and was about to stab them with his longsword. Chu suddenly made a turn and avoided the sword light, but he was so shocked that he broke out in a cold sweat. This Murong Cho was almost using the sword kinesis technique. He actually used the sword to carry him forward, and the sword was faster than him. Murong Cho sneered. His long sword also made a turn and shot at Chu again. Qin Mengyun said, No, you can't escape. Chu scoffed and activated the flying demon technique to its limit. His speed increased again. If it was him, of course, he could avoid the long sword. However, he was carrying Qin Mengyun, so his speed was greatly reduced. That was why it was so strenuous. With all his might, he made a turn again. The long sword followed closely behind and almost stabbed his back. The speed was really shocking. Murong Cho glared at him angrily as if he wanted to burn him. Chu began to change his direction so that Murong Cho could not catch up. However, he could not increase the distance between them either. Qin Mengyun was a little worried. If this went on, they would eventually be caught up. After all, Wu Yuanxi was carrying her while Murong Cho was alone. He did not have any burden. She had to think of a way. Thinking of this, she opened her red lips and sang. The graceful voice sounded leisurely and lingered in the air without dispersing. Chu could not help but tremble. His movements slowed down and he was shocked. Fortunately, Murong Cho's speed slowed down as well. Chapter 2079. Chu was shocked. Was this the power of the dance butterfly sect? He had the Mahavairokkana's immobility scripture, so his concentration was unparalleled. Even so, He could not help but be moved by the song and could not control himself. Most people would not be able to resist it. Murong Chao's ability was extraordinary, or else Qin Mengyun would have left him behind. He did not understand Murong Chao. The omniscient mirror could not see into his mind, or he had a treasure or a special technique. Qin Mengyun's song continued. It was graceful and melodious, like a dream. It made people want to relax and fall asleep without thinking about the troubles of the world. Murong Chao slowed down. He looked like he was struggling, but his eyes gradually lost focus. In the blink of an eye, he was left behind by Chu Li and disappeared. Chu Li skimmed to the left and turned into another forest. Qin Mengyun's face was as pale as a sheet, and her eyes were blurred. It was obvious that she was suffering from the backlash of the technique. Her song was a secret technique that consumed a lot of energy. The two stopped at the peak of a mountain, and Chu Li gently put her down. Qin Mengyun did not sit down cross-legged to channel. Instead, she spun around lightly. Her footsteps had an inexplicable rhythm, and her movements were graceful as if she was dancing. Chu Li looked at her and felt that she was pleasing to the eye. If he could marry a woman like her and watch her dance often, it would be one of life's greatest pleasures. Qin Mengyun danced for about 15 minutes. She was sweating, and her face was rosy again. She was no longer pale and weak. This was obviously her unique channeling technique. She had almost recovered in a short while. The dance butterfly sex heart technique was amazing. Chu Li asked, "Miss Qin, why is he after you?" "He wants to kidnap me and make me his woman," Qin Mengyun said angrily. Chu Li asked, "Is he pursuing you, Miss Qin?" "He's a pervert," Qin Mengyun said coldly. Chu Li frowned. "He wants to use force?" Qin Mengyun scoffed. "He's despicable and incompetent. He's not a man." Chu Li's face darkened. "He dares to do that? Why wouldn't he?" Qin Mengyun bit her red lips and said angrily, "He's sure that our sect can't do anything to the Sword Demon sect." "It can't be?" Chu Li was shocked. If a sect couldn't protect its own disciples, then what was the point? If the people's hearts were slack, they would quickly decline. Looking at Qin Mengyun's expression, she didn't seem to think that it was a great thing. Rather, it was something that was unacceptable. Qin Mengyun said, "Who dares to provoke the Sword Demon sect?" Chu Li frowned. "The Sword Demon sect can't be tyrannical and lawless, right? That's how they are." Qin Mengyun nodded and said, "I have a senior sister like this. She was snatched away by a fellow from the Sword Demon sect to be his wife." Chu Li asked, "What happened next?" "She's resigned to her fate," Qin Mengyun said hatefully. "She can only marry him, have children with him, and leave the martial arts world." Chu Li raised his eyebrows and remained silent. This was clearly a culture and custom that he did not understand. It was really an eye-opener for women to be able to rely on robbing others. Qin Mengyun said, "Murong Chao wants me to be like senior sister who? That's impossible, he's dreaming." Chu Li's thoughts raced, and he had already figured out the crux of the matter. "You've formed an alliance with the Sword Demon sect, haven't you?" "Humph, that can't be helped." Qin Mengyun revealed a look of disdain. "Senior sister who married into the Sword Demon sect. When the sect is in trouble, the Sword Demon sect will help out on account of senior sister who. The sect can't refuse." Chu Li came to a sudden realization. No wonder a master from the Sword Demon sect snatched a disciple from the Dancing Butterfly sect to be his wife. Then, the female disciple from the Dancing Butterfly sect resigned to her fate and might even have developed feelings for him. Then, she became loyal to the Sword Demon sect's disciple. Even if the Dancing Butterfly sect wanted to seek revenge, they could only give up on account of the female disciple from the Dancing Butterfly sect. In this way, the two sects became in-laws, and their relationship became closer, forming an alliance. The world was really strange. Murong Chao also wanted to imitate his seniors and snatch Qin Mengyun back to be his wife. If he really snatched her away, the Dancing Butterfly sect would probably not risk their lives. Instead, they would be even closer. Chu Li shook his head and laughed. Qin Mengyun scoffed. What are you laughing at? I'm going to die from anger, and you're still laughing. Chu Li sighed. This Murong Cho is also fearless. Is he so sure that your sect will agree to your marriage? He's the youth champion of the Sword Demon sect. Qin Mengyun scoffed. Chu Li nodded in realization. No wonder he's so powerful. So, this means that I'm the one who's meddling in other people's business. Did I provoke such a powerful enemy for no reason? How is this considered meddling? Qin Mengyun said. If I'm really snatched away by him, I'll definitely kill myself. You saved my life. But you have to be careful of Murong. Chu Li frowned. The Sword Demon sect is becoming more and more unscrupulous. Qin Mengyun said. Who asked them to be so powerful? Your Flying Heaven sect is also inferior to them. Our Flying Heaven sect is not afraid of them, Chu Li said in a low voice. Qin Mengyun gave him a sidelong glance. Don't force yourself, Chu Li said. Looks like I have to teach him a lesson. It's better not to cause trouble for your Flying Heaven sect. Qin Mengyun said. You saved me, but I can't harm you. Let's hurry back. Why don't you use void diversion? Chu Li asked. Qin Mengyun shook her head gently. Chu Li immediately understood that she was injured. He extended his hand, but she turned her wrist to avoid it. I'm fine. I just need to find a place to stay for 2 days, Qin Mengyun said. Chu Li frowned. I'm good at healing. You're injured by his sword energy. You can't do anything, Qin Mengyun said. Or else you'll be entangled. The Sword Demon sect's sword energy was extremely strange. Once one came into contact with their sword energy, one would immediately be targeted. Strands of sword energy would entangle one and not be destroyed. Then, the Sword Demon sect's masters would be able to sense it and chase after one through the sword energy. Chu Li frowned. It's fine. Qin Mengyun shook her head. I'll do it myself. Chu Li did not force her. Shall we find another place? He can chase after us with his sword energy, Qin Mengyun said. We'll have to change places soon. Chu Li said. How about this? I'll bring you along. You heal your injuries while I fight him. Can you do it? Qin Mengyun asked. Chu Li said. If I can't, you'll have to help me. All right. Qin Mengyun nodded. This was the best solution. Otherwise, if she really fought with Murong Cho, she would definitely lose. She might be fine, but Wu Yuanxi's life would be in danger. Chu Li pulled her sleeve, and the two of them flew out like two eagles once again. They flew from the peak of the mountain, flew over the deep valley below the cliff, crossed the mountain stream, and went up another mountain, and then the next one. Chu Li flew over one mountain after another as he headed in the direction of the dancing butterfly sect. He continuously used the soaring godfiend technique to travel at lightning speed. It was truly satisfying. Using the soaring godfiend technique did not consume any inner energy at all. In fact, it could even replenish the inner energy that was consumed. He liked such a wonderful martial art more and more, but his joy did not last for long. Not only did Qin Mengyun's injuries not recover, but they also worsened. Chapter 2080. As soon as the cloud-slashing power's inner energy entered her meridians, a sharp, tangible sword energy rushed over, trying to destroy his cloud-slashing power's inner energy. Chu Li frowned slightly and allowed it to enter his body. Then, he let go of her wrist and activated the heavenly demonic spirit devouring technique, swallowing the sword energy and entering the heavenly demonic orb. The heavenly demonic orb became more real and hid in his chest again. Chu Li was least afraid of this kind of pure inner energy. He was afraid of the heavenly demonic transformation technique. Many martial arts in the heavenly demonic realm used the heavenly demonic power as a foundation to train the body and modify the meridians. Compared to other martial arts, the heavenly demonic power's efficiency was extraordinary. Therefore, sects in the heavenly demonic realm often created new heart techniques based on the heavenly demonic power. However, they all used the heavenly demonic power as the source, so it was exceptionally easy for the heavenly demonic spirit devouring technique to devour this inner energy. The heavenly demonic spirit devouring technique needed a transformation process to devour other inner energy. However, devouring this heavenly demonic power's inner energy was as easy as drinking water. The heavenly demonic orb completely absorbed this energy to strengthen itself. Qin Mengyun opened her eyes and stared at him, dissatisfied. When she saw Chu Li open his eyes, she quickly said, "You're too stubborn." Even if his cultivation level was higher, he would still be injured if he absorbed the sword energy into his body. She had experienced the sharpness of Murong Chao's sword energy. It was impossible to block it. It was indeed the antique study of the sword demonic sect. Chu Li smiled. "It's fine. He can't catch us this time. Let's go." "You're not injured?" Qin Mengyun asked. Chu Li replied, "No, the sword energy can't do anything to me. Moreover, you've almost exhausted it." "Really?" Qin Mengyun stared at Chu Li, afraid that he would be stubborn. Chu Li waved his hand. "You should recover quickly. We'll just teleport back." "Let's wait for an hour," Qin Mengyun said. Without the sword energy's constant destruction, she could quickly recover with the butterfly dance sect's mysterious heart technique and perform void diversion. Chu Li continued to fly with her and stopped after 100 miles. Here, without the sword chi, Murong Cho would not be able to catch up. Qin Mengyun danced gracefully on the treetop. Her feet were so light that it was as if she was stepping on air. From time to time, she would lightly tap on the treetop and use the void as her stage. Her graceful movements were mesmerizing, and Chu Li was mesmerized by her. Even though his mind was not taken away, he could not help but be intoxicated. He had never seen such a beautiful dance before. It was no wonder that Murong Cho dared to act so unscrupulously and wanted to take her back to be his wife. Any man would have this kind of impulse. If he didn't have a good wife at home and had many emotional debts, he would have also thought of taking her back. 2 hours passed by unknowingly. Chu Li only felt that in the blink of an eye, Qin Mengyun had already stopped what she was doing and was gracefully standing in front of him. Her body was full of vigor and her eyes were shining brightly. "Let's go back," Qin Mengyun said. Chu Li nodded lightly and put away his lost feelings. The two of them abruptly disappeared on the spot, and in the next instant, they appeared at the foot of a mountain. "So this is our dancing butterfly sect." Qin Mengyun's entire body relaxed as she looked at him with a bright smile. Chu Li nodded. What a magnificent sight! As expected of the dancing butterfly sect. His gaze suddenly froze and he frowned. Qin Mengyun looked at him in confusion. Chu Li slowly said, "How audacious of you." Qin Mengyun asked, "What's wrong?" Chu Li scoffed. "Come out." A man in a green robe stepped out of thin air. His hand was on the hilt of his sword as he coldly looked down at the two of them. His eyes were as bright as torches as if he wanted to burn Chu Li. Chu Li fist saluted. "Murong Cho." "Who are you?" Murong Cho scoffed coldly. "How audacious." Chu Li smiled. "Wu Yuanci from the Flying Heaven sect." "So it's you." Murong Cho sneered. "No wonder you're so audacious to provoke us. If you turn around and leave now, I can let bygones be bygones." "Ha ha!" Chu Li laughed out loud and shook his head. "That's what I wanted to say to you. Young Master Murong, let me give you a piece of advice. Do you really think that the Dancing Butterfly sect will tolerate your impudence? If they really tolerate it, won't the disciples of the Dancing Butterfly sect become the women of the Sword Demon sect? You don't have to worry about that." Murong Cho stood straight and sneered. "Looks like you don't want to leave and want to meddle in this." Chu Li said, "Someone will step on injustice. Don't say it so openly. Your thoughts are the same as mine. You only want Miss Qin." Let me tell you, unless you kill me, you won't succeed. Morong Cho scoffed. Morong Cho, do you think that all men are as despicable and shameless as you? Qin Mengyan shouted. How naive. Stupid. How shameless. Why don't you ask Wu if he dares to swear in front of the gods and demons that he has no improper thoughts about you? Morong Cho said disdainfully. Qin Mengyan said, Shut up. Chu Li raised his finger and said, I can swear to God that if I have improper thoughts about Miss Qin, I, Wu Yuanxi, will have my soul destroyed. The gods and demons can bear witness. He was not Wu Yuanxi anyway. Moreover, he did not have improper thoughts about Qin Mengyan. He was not the same as before. He was not easily moved by women. When he saw Qin Mengyan's beauty, he felt that she was beautiful and wanted to talk to her, but that was all. Good, good. Morong Cho looked at him in surprise and nodded slowly. I've learned something new today. Chu Li calmly replied, Not everyone is like you. Looks like you really want to help her? Morong Cho said. Chu Li nodded. You've gone too far. Treating a woman like this is really intolerable. I have no choice but to take action. All right, I'll let it go for today. Morong Cho suddenly released his hand on the hilt of his sword and said, If that's the case, we're not enemies. I won't take action. Qin Mengyan frowned and looked at him. She did not understand. However, Chu Li immediately understood Morong Cho's thoughts. After he made the vow, the two of them were no longer rivals. Morong Cho's intention to kill him was not as strong. If he knew what was good for him, he would not kill him. However, if he did not know what was good for him, he would definitely kill him. They had only met for a few sentences, but he had already understood Morong Cho's character. He was really overbearing and unreasonable. He treated women and men the same way. Those who obeyed him would live, and those who opposed him would die. He could not be disobeyed. First of all, he had amazing talent. He was doted on at a young age and developed a domineering aura. Second, it was because of the martial arts he cultivated. Martial arts and character complemented and influenced each other. Perhaps it was because of his character that he could cultivate his swordsmanship to such a high level. Chu Li said, That's good. Please. Morong Cho looked at him deeply, then looked at Qin Mengyan. He said calmly, Miss Qin, I'm sincere to you. The gods and demons can testify. Get lost. Qin Mengyan shouted in disgust. I believe that you'll like me one day, Morong Cho said. Qin Mengyan sneered. In your dreams. Morong Cho's fist saluted and suddenly disappeared. Chu Li thoughtfully looked at the void where he left. He carefully thought about the depth of Morong Cho's cultivation level and how much of a threat he could pose to him. Chapter 2081. Qin Mengyan said, Young Master Wu, don't worry. It seems like he won't make another move. Chu Li shook his head and said, I'm not worried about me, but you have to be careful. You can't always stay in the sect, can you? Me? Qin Mengyan frowned and said, I will tell the sect leader. Chu Li sighed. If it really works, Morong Cho wouldn't dare to be so unscrupulous. I don't believe that they can be so lawless. Our dancing butterfly sect isn't so easily bullied. Qin Mengyan snorted. Chu Li said, It's better to be careful. Why don't you follow me to the Flying Heaven sect? That won't do. Qin Mengyan shook her head. She was very confident in Chu Li now because he had already taken a God-fiend oath and would not have any improper thoughts. Everyone had to respect a God-fiend oath, and it was extremely effective, especially for the great heavenly demon. She heaved a sigh of relief, but she couldn't help but feel a trace of disappointment in her heart. Was her charm not enough? She was very confident in her beauty, and her butterfly dance mantra was very profound. No man could resist her beauty. She didn't expect to meet someone who wasn't tempted by her beauty. She especially looked at him in a different light and let down her guard. This was a good thing for her. She could get along with him easily. Chu Li said, Then stay in the sect and don't go out. No matter how impudent Morong Cho is, he won't be able to enter the butterfly dance sect to snatch you away. I'm just afraid that he'll propose marriage to your sect leader and force you to agree. You're underestimating us too much, Qin Mengyun said. Chu Li smiled and nodded. I hope so. I'll take my leave first then. Let's go in and have a seat for a few days, Qin Mengyun said. Chu Li shook his head. I have to hurry back as well, in case I run into the profound heart sex pursuit. Qin Mengyun did not try to persuade him to stay any longer. She cupped her fist. She had heard that Chu Li had killed Mo Jishuan and an elder of Profound Heart Sect. Profound Heart Sect had to kill him no matter what, or else Profound Heart Sect would not be able to lift their heads up high. That was why he dared to come out and was even more dangerous than her. Just as Chu Li was about to leave, his body suddenly stopped. His expression changed slightly, and he said in a low voice, "You go in first." Qin Mengyun said, "You can leave first." Chu Li shook his head. "It's a little troublesome. You should leave first." "What's going on?" Qin Mengyun looked at him in confusion. Chu Li's actions were too suspicious. Why did he insist on leaving first? They were at the foot of the butterfly dance sex mountain, so why was he in such a hurry? Her bright eyes scanned the surroundings, but she didn't find anything. She trusted her instincts and knew that there was no danger. She was puzzled and wanted to see what Chu Li was up to. She raised her voice and asked, "Is someone coming? Sword Demon Sect? Profound Heart Sect?" 4 elders appeared out of thin air and landed in front of Chu Li, surrounding the two of them. Qin Mengyun looked at Chu Li. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. He gave her a look, signaling her to leave quickly and not to get herself involved. She would only be a burden here. Qin Mengyun rolled her eyes at him and snorted at the 4 elders. "Your Profound Heart Sect sure has guts." "Miss Qin, please," a thin old man said calmly. "For the sake of the Dancing Butterfly Sect and for the sake of Miss Qin, please leave first. This is a grudge between us and Wu Yuanxi." Qin Mengyun frowned. "Aren't you looking down on the Butterfly Dance Sect by making a move here?" The thin old man smiled. "Miss Qin, please forgive our haste. In order to deal with Wu Yuanxi, we have no choice but to resort to extreme measures. Otherwise, he'll slip away again." Qin Mengyun said, "You can kill him as you please once he leaves the Butterfly Dance Sect, but you can't do it in the Butterfly Dance Sect. Otherwise, don't blame us for turning against you." The thin old man shook his head. "If he stays in the Butterfly Dance Sect, we won't be able to kill him." "Miss Qin, why are you making things difficult for us?" Qin Mengyun snorted. "I'm not making things difficult for you. You're the ones making things difficult for the Butterfly Dance Sect. Seniors, if you insist on making a move here, I have nothing to say. Please." She fluttered away from the encirclement and prepared to call the sect leader to help Chu Li. No matter what, she could not block her benefactor at the entrance of the Butterfly Dance Sect. Otherwise, the Butterfly Dance Sect would be humiliated. Because of this, the sect leader would not stand idly by and help Chu Li. The 4 old men ignored her and looked at Chu Li as if they wanted to burn him alive. Chu Li smiled at them and said, "Are the 4 of you the elders of the Profound Heart Sect?" "That's right." The thin old man slowly said, "Wu Yuanxi, you're quite capable to be able to kill Xiao Mo and junior brother Xia. We can't let you live anymore. Show us what you've got." As he spoke, his body suddenly swelled up. His loose clothes suddenly tightened, and his body seemed to have doubled in size. His old face suddenly became young, and he became a middle-aged man. The other old man did the same. Chu Li could tell at a glance that it was the heavenly demonic transformation technique. He instantly had a headache. His biggest concern now was the heavenly demonic transformation technique. He did not expect them to use it right away. It was obvious that they were trying to get rid of him in the shortest time possible. In that case, he could only try his best to deal with them. A clear whistle was heard. It sounded like a skylark soaring into the sky. It flew higher and higher until it pierced through the clouds and resounded throughout the land. The four old men's expressions changed slightly. They glared at Qin Mingyun, who had made the sound, and wanted to cover her mouth. However, it was too late now. The dancing butterfly sect must have been alerted by the sound. They had to get rid of Chu Li before they did. The four old men immediately pounced on Chu Li. Chu Li's figure flickered. He was like a dream, like a mist, and like a shadow. He floated around the four old men's palm energy. Palm shadows filled the sky while his figure flickered and disappeared. It was as if he knew the cloning skill. His figure was everywhere. A clear and melodious whistle was heard from the sky. It sounded like it was very far away, but when the whistle ended, it was right in front of them. A woman with a white veil over her face appeared gracefully in the void. She took a step forward and arrived next to Qin Mingyun. Her emerald green gown was extremely loose and covered her figure. Only her pair of clear eyes and fair, sharp chin underneath the white veil revealed an intoxicating charm. Qin Mingyun quickly said, "Master, quickly save young Master Wu." "Which Wu?" the woman asked. Her voice was smooth and gentle like a young girl's. "Of course it's the one who's being besieged, Wu Yuanxi from the Flying Heaven sect." Qin Mingyun quickly said, "Thanks to his help, I was able to escape from Murong Chao's pursuit. Otherwise, you wouldn't have seen me." Chu Li realized that under such circumstances, the flying demon technique had improved by leaps and bounds. His speed was getting faster and faster, and he could move more freely. "Those four are from the Profound Heart sect, right?" the woman in green asked. "They're the four old farts from the Profound Heart sect. They're thick-skinned." Qin Mingyun scoffed. The woman in green took out a jade flute from her sleeve and placed it next to her lip. "Then let's play a tune to resolve the war." The sound of the flute was long and drawn out, sobbing like a sob. It was sentimental and tender, causing one's heart to soften involuntarily upon hearing it. Their original murderous intent dissipated, and they could no longer do anything. All they could do was to stay quietly. The sound of the flute had unknowingly affected everyone. Chu Li even felt that his fighting spirit was being worn down. It was as if he wanted to sleep. Chapter 2082. The lady in green put down the jade flute and quietly looked at the four elders with her clear eyes. The two elders had already removed the heavenly demonic transformation and returned to their original forms, but they did not look good. They did not want to do this, but they still did it. It was obvious that they could not resist the influence of the flute. This was indeed strange. They knew they were tricked, but their bodies seemed to have lost control and could not control themselves. "Who are you?" The four elders frowned. "Lu Qingxue from the Dancing Butterfly sect," the lady in green said quietly. "This is the foot of the Dancing Butterfly sect. It's better to bury the hatchet. It's not suitable to fight here. Please leave." "So it's Miss Lu. Nice to meet you." The four elders' fists saluted. They looked stern and were secretly on guard. They had naturally heard of Lu Qingxue's name, and it was a well-known name. However, they did not expect that she would appear here, and so quickly, disrupting their plans. However, they were not anxious. With the celestial demon universe lock, Wu Yuanxi would not be able to escape. Chu Li said, "Thank you for your help, Senior Lu." Lu Qingxue lightly said, "You're welcome. You helped my disciple, so naturally, I won't let others bully you." "Miss Lu, this is a big matter for the Profound Heart sect. It's better if you don't interfere," the thin elder said. "We'll give Miss Lu some face and leave first." Then, the four fists saluted and suddenly disappeared. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. It was obvious that Lu Qingxue was a powerful person, or else the four elders would not leave so easily. Lu Qingxue's face was indeed big enough and strong enough to deter them. Qin Mingyun scoffed. "They bully the weak and fear the strong. The people from the Profound Heart sect are really funny," Lu Qingxue said, Murong Cho from the Sword Demon Sect? Yes. Qin Mengyun quickly said, Master, you have to help me. He wants to take me as his wife and treat me like senior sister who. I won't obey him even if I have to die. I'll warn him to behave. Lu Qingxue gently nodded and turned to Chu Li. Thank you, young Master Wu. Chu Li fist saluted and smiled. I don't deserve it. I'll take my leave. Be careful, they won't let this matter rest. The Profound Heart sect is treacherous and will definitely pester us. Lu Qingxue said indifferently. Chu Li gave a fist salute and activated the flying demon technique. He disappeared into the forest like a wisp of smoke. Lu Qingxue glanced at Qin Mengyun, who was staring in the direction where Chu Li had disappeared, and said, Little girl, is this young Master Wu not bad? He's really not bad. He doesn't have any improper thoughts about me. Qin Mengyun pursed her lips and smiled. That's rare indeed. He's the one who worked together with senior brother Meng to steal the Great Light Scripture. So it's him. Lu Qingxue said, I hope he can escape from Profound Heart sect's pursuit. Master, he saved your disciple's life. Are we just going to watch helplessly? Qin Mengyun said, Isn't that too inappropriate? What are you going to do? Lu Qingxue asked. You can't always follow behind him and protect him, right? How about we save him this time? Qin Mengyun raised her index finger, indicating that she would only save him once. She knew that her master had an indifferent personality and was too lazy to meddle in other people's business. She did not even care about her own matters and handled everything by herself. Therefore, although she looked innocent and had a pure heart, she did not act rudely. Instead, she was methodical. Lu Qingxue said, It won't be too late to think about it if he survives this time. Master. Qin Mengyun shook her arm. Lu Qingxue said, Let's go. She did not wait for Qin Mengyun to act coquettishly again. She stepped into the void and disappeared. Qin Mengyun stomped her feet and called out coquettishly, Master? Then, she leaped into the void and returned to the sect. Chu Li was like a wisp of smoke, light and graceful. He was as fast as lightning while thinking about the heavenly demonic universe lock. How to remove the heavenly demonic universe lock had always been a problem, and there did not seem to be any good ideas. The only thing he could use was the flying divine demon technique. He continuously activated the flying divine demon technique, and his body became faster and faster. He forced them to follow closely behind but could not catch up. Chu Li wanted to fight a war of attrition. He suddenly stopped and shook his head helplessly. Young Master Murong, what a coincidence! Murong Cho emerged from the void and said coldly, I have been waiting for a long time. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Is young Master Murong here to kill me? Not necessarily. You are not my rival in love, there is no need to kill you, Murong Cho said coldly. Chu Li said, Then young Master Murong means? You can lend me a hand, Murong Cho said. Chu Li laughed and shook his head. Young Master Murong thinks too highly of me. I really can't help you. Oh right, I can't even take care of myself now. There are people chasing after me. From the Profound Heart sect? Murong Cho asked. Chu Li nodded. Murong Cho said, Easy, I can help you settle it. Chu Li smiled and shook his head. It's not that I want to pour cold water on you, but the 4 Grand Elders of the Profound Heart sect came at the same time to kill me. Young Master Murong, although you are powerful, you are not their opponent. Murong Cho said lightly, You think you can't handle them, but I think it's a piece of cake. They are much easier to handle than Qin Mengyun. As the two of them were talking, 4 figures flew over and surrounded Chu Li and Murong Cho. Murong Cho glanced at the 4 of them and said lightly, These are the 4 of you? Yes, Chu Li nodded. The 4 elders of the Profound Heart sect frowned and looked at Murong Cho. They looked at him carefully and felt his sharpness. It was like an unsheathed treasure sword. They unconsciously felt a sense of danger and wanted to retreat. May I know who you are? Thin Elder said in a deep voice. I will not change my name or my surname. I am Murong Cho from the Sword Demon sect. Murong Cho said coldly, I will take on the grudge between the Profound Heart sect and Wu Yuanci. Either you leave or you die. Choose. Murong Cho. Thin Elder frowned. When he heard the name, he had some misgivings. Murong Cho was the top youth master of the Sword Demon sect. It was not an undeserved reputation. All the disciples of the Sword Demon sect were reborn from the Sword Demon. They were crazy and difficult to deal with. Although the Profound Heart sect was strong, they were not as strong as the Sword Demon sect. They did not want to provoke the Sword Demon sect. However, Murong Cho was so unscrupulous and unceremoniously obstructed their pursuit of Wu Yuanci. They had no other choice. Murong Cho, you better think it through. Our Profound Heart sect is not a pushover. Clang. Jumping dumplings, falling swans, collapsing bones, stupid words? Working mulberry, the four elders looked at each other. Although they were wary of Murong Cho, they had to make a move. If they were scared off with just one sentence, they would have lived for nothing. Murong Cho placed his hand on the hilt of his sword and swung. The cold light flashed and disappeared. Chi! Amidst the whistling sound, the four of them quickly retreated and waved their palms. They kept hitting, trying to dissolve the sword energy in front of their chests. For sword energies had already reached their chests, forcing them to retreat. Chi! Murong Cho waved his sword again. The four of them continued to retreat. Before they could dissolve one sword energy, another sword energy had already arrived. It was very strenuous for them. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Murong Cho's sword energy was pure and firm. He had seen it before. If he did not have the heavenly demonic spirit devouring technique, it would be very difficult to deal with. He might not be able to wear it out unless he gave up on the cloud slashing power and used the earth matrix and reincarnation scripture. Chapter 2083. Murong Cho, don't force us. The thin elder shouted, or else we'll have to kill you too. Alright, kill me. Murong Cho said coldly, let's see what else the Profound Heart sect can do besides scheming. The thin elder shook his head and sighed, if that's the case we can only kill you. You're seeking your own death, don't blame anyone else. As he spoke, his body suddenly turned illusory and was easily penetrated by the sword aura like smoke. In a flash, he was already behind Murong Cho and lightly struck with his palm. The Profound Heart sect's heart technique only required a thought to be real or fake. Murong Cho sneered, child's play. He pressed his hand on the hilt of his sword and gently pulled it out, revealing only half of the sword. The upper half of the sword emitted a cold light and formed a solid sword aura. The four elders became illusory, and the sword aura easily passed through them as if it was hitting a void. Murong Cho sneered again and again. The sword aura spread out and formed a rain of swords. Whether it was real or fake, it did not give them any space to dodge. The Profound Heart sect's light body technique was best at finding the real and fake. Even though it was so densely packed, they could still get close to him. The two elders' bodies suddenly expanded and once again used the heavenly demonic transformation. Bang 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 bang. The two elders extended their huge palms and clashed with the sword aura. The sound of the sword aura hitting leather was muffled, but their palms did not bleed. They were actually unable to break through the defense of the heavenly demonic transformation. Chu Li looked at Murong Cho with interest. He wanted to see how he would deal with this, whether he would exhaust or break through. Child's play. Murong Cho sneered and shot out a cold light that was hard to distinguish. His sword had already pierced the thin elder's palm and directly penetrated it. He then pulled it out and stabbed it again, forcing the thin elder to tilt his body to avoid it. He did not dare to take his sword head-on. Buzz buzz! The long sword emitted a cold glint as it emitted a buzzing sound like that of a bee. It kept stabbing out, fast and ruthless, forcing the four of them to dodge in fear of being stabbed and getting injured like the thin old man. Chu could clearly see the blade of the sword vibrating at a high speed, forming a blurry shadow. It looked as if the long sword had become half its original size. However, the speed of the sword was extremely fast, and the sword chi on the sword was also extremely powerful. Seeing that the thin elder's palm kept bleeding, and that half of his arm could no longer move, he knew the power of the sword. The sword demon sect's sword technique was indeed top-notch. It completely restrained the Skyfiend embodiment technique. Flying Heaven sect, on the other hand, was clearly much inferior in comparison to using their sword arts to directly counter the attack. Taking advantage of the slender old man's sluggish movements, Murong Cho suddenly sped up and stabbed him in the chest, then pulled out his sword and retreated. The thin old man's expression changed greatly. He clutched his chest and groaned. His face was pale and gloomy. He quickly shouted, "Go!" The other three elders helped him up, and he suddenly transformed into a shadow. Murong Cho snorted. His body suddenly sped up, body and sword as one, and stabbed another old man with the demonic transformation technique. The old man gritted his teeth and did not say a word. The four of them disappeared without a trace. Murong Cho still wanted to give chase, but Chu said, "Master Murong." Murong Cho stopped and turned back. He lightly shook his long sword and returned it to its scabbard. He scoffed. "The Profound Heart sect is only SOSO, but you were chased like a dog. What a joke." Chu smiled. "My sword technique is indeed not as good as yours, Master Murong. I did you a favor, right?" Murong Cho said. "I'm your savior, right?" Chu smiled and shook his head. "It can only be considered as a favor, not a savior. Even if I can't beat them, escaping with my life is not a problem. Master Murong Cho, what do you think? The Flying Heaven sect is the best at escaping." Murong Cho scoffed. "Then do me a favor too. As long as it's not to help you against Miss Qin." Chu smiled. Murong Cho said impatiently, "Other than this, what else can you help me with?" Chu said, "Miss Qin doesn't like you. Why do you have to force her? A forced melon is not sweet, it's bitter. Why do you have to ask for trouble? She doesn't like me now, but she'll like me in the future." Murong Cho said, "Just like my ninth sister, she was snatched back by ninth senior brother. Now, the two of them are so sweet that it's uncomfortable to look at them." Chu said, "Everyone is different. That lady from the Dancing Butterfly sect can fall in love with your ninth senior brother, but Miss Qin can't. She hates overbearing and unreasonable people, but you're doing this." "I can't think of any other way." Murong Cho said, "Since they're going to be together in the end, why waste so much time? If you have the time, you might as well practice your swordsmanship." Chu shook his head and laughed. "Brother Murong, forget it. I must have her." Murong Cho said coldly. Chu frowned. "Do you like Miss Qin that much?" "Yes, it must be her." Murong Cho nodded slowly and raised his head to glare at Chu. "If I have her, I'll treat her well. I won't mistreat her, and I'll make her happier than other women." Chu shook his head. "You can't force things between a man and a woman. Just like what happened between your ninth senior brother and ninth sister, it was purely a coincidence and a fluke. You can't take it seriously. If you really force yourself, with Miss Qin's explosive temper, she'll really kill you or even kill herself. You're hurting her." "Impossible." Murong Cho frowned. Chu said, "Brother Murong, although you've helped me, I'll still stop you the next time you use force on Miss Qin." "You're going to bite the hand that feeds you?" Murong Cho stared at him coldly. Chu said, "Bullying the weak is not what a man should do. I really look down on your behavior, using force on a woman." What right do you have to stop me?" Murong Cho sneered. Chu said, "I might not be able to stop you alone, but if I join forces with Miss Qin, you might not be our match. When the time comes, I'll first cripple you, and see if you can still mess around." What a joke! Murong Cho curled his lips and said in disdain, boasting shamelessly, crippling me. Aren't you afraid that the wind will cut your tongue? Chu Li said, I've seen Miss Qin's master, she's really a powerful person. You're definitely not her match. She's a senior, she won't do anything to me. Otherwise, our sect's elders can also do something to their younger generation, causing a war between the two sections. They won't dare. Murong Cho scoffed. Chu Li shook his head. You're already bullying her disciple, why won't Senior Lu do anything? I don't think so. Murong Cho frowned and pondered. Chu Li could see that Murong Cho was very afraid of Lu Qingxue. She was indeed a powerful person, she must have made a name for herself when she was young. Otherwise, with Murong Cho's arrogance, he would not be like this. Chu Li said, I think this Senior Lu is ruthless. When the time comes, he'll directly cripple you. I must have her. Murong Cho took a deep breath and scoffed. The woman I fancy will never become someone else's. Chu Li shook his head. Matters between a man and a woman cannot be forced. That's because you're not strong enough. Murong Cho scoffed. As long as you're strong enough, anything is possible. Chu Li smiled and did not comment. What he said was actually true. For people in the martial arts world, as long as their martial arts were strong enough, anything was possible. Chapter 2084. Chu Li sighed. Then you have countless enemies. No matter how strong you are, you will still be killed. Let's see. Murong Cho scoffed. You are also a man without a woman. Your words are not reliable. I will do it my own way. You can leave. Chu Li said, Be careful of the Profound Heart sect. They are not magnanimous. I'm afraid they won't come. Murong Cho sneered. If one comes, I will kill one. If two come, I will kill a pair. As soon as he finished speaking, a cold laugh was heard. Chu Li frowned. He saw 6 elders step out of thin air and surround the two of them. The 6 elders' eyes were like lightning. Their auras were like the sea and mountains, pressuring people to the point of suffocation. The surrounding air seemed to have solidified. Even the void was solidified. They could not use void shift to escape. Chu Li sighed. If 2 come, I will kill a pair. What about 6? Then kill 3 pairs. Murong Cho said, Why are you afraid? Chu Li said, Brother Murong, I'm afraid we are in trouble this time. I will delay them. You should leave first. No need. I will kill anyone who dares to kill me. Murong Cho said coldly, The Profound Heart sect is nothing. They can't kill me. Chu Li shook his head. I will deal with 2. You deal with 4. Alright. Murong Cho scoffed. Escaping is useless. We still have to fight with our lives. Fight with our lives. Chu Li nodded. At this time, I'm afraid we can only fight with our lives. If not, this day next year will be our death anniversary. Do it. He shouted and his figure disappeared. In the next moment, he appeared behind an elder. He had already escaped the encirclement of the 6. He turned around and escaped with lightning speed. However, he did not expect that the 6 elders would not care about him at all. They only surrounded Murong Cho. Their bodies slowly shrunk and became much shorter, but the force around them became even stronger. The pressure was so strong that Chu Li could not help but take a step back. The 6 people's auras were connected. Their power was stronger. It was obvious that they wanted to kill Murong Cho first. This was the best chance for him to escape. He could take the opportunity to escape far away. He could even escape back to the Flying Heaven sect. Then they would be helpless. They could not barge into the Flying Heaven sect to kill him. Murong Cho snorted, You leave first. Chu Li shook his head and stood outside the circle. Let's work together. Heh! The 6 of them shouted at the same time, their voices like a clap of thunder. Chu Li's body trembled, and his vigor was shaken. Even if he had regained his original strength and did not use the cloud slashing power, he would still be no match for the 6 of them. These 6 great heavenly demons' cultivation levels were higher than his, and the 6 of them were even more powerful when they joined forces. He took a deep breath, shrunk his body a little, and activated the sacrificial divine art. The cloud's slashing power was so pure and profound that it seemed to be in liquid form. It circulated in his body like a river or an ocean, surging endlessly. There was even a gurgling sound beside his ears, and the faint sound of a river could be heard from the surrounding void. Chu was surprised. He did not expect the cloud's slashing power to be so refined without him realizing it. It seemed like the cloud's slashing power still had some miraculous aspects that he had yet to discover. He would have to dig deeper into it and improve it further. Otherwise, it would be difficult for him to survive in the heavenly demonic realm. Murong Cho turned his head and glanced at him. Wu Yuanxi, it seems like you also have a secret technique. Chu Li said gravely, be careful. Let's do it. Murong Cho scoffed. He slowly pulled out the long sword from his waist, and the blade let out a soft hum. Everyone could feel the excitement from the treasure sword, as if it was inexplicably excited to see so many masters about to kill it. Chu Li could not help but sigh. Murong Cho was indeed a powerful person. Faced with such powerful opponents, not only was he not afraid, but he was also excited. He did not care about life and death, and was excited to challenge stronger masters and enter more dangerous situations. People with such characteristics would either die a violent or early death, or once they grew up, they would become great people. Murong Cho had grown up, and if there were no accidents, he would definitely become a famous master in the future. Hum! The blade let out a soft hum again, and then it turned into a sky full of cold light that enveloped the 6 elders. It was 1 against 6. Ding 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 ding. The profound heart sect elders did not dodge. They flicked their fingers lightly, and the clear sound was like rain hitting on banana leaves. Their fingers were like metal, and faced with the sword energy, they were not at a disadvantage and easily blocked it. Good. Murong Cho laughed coldly. Again. The sword light increased again, and it was as violent as a big avalanche. Ding 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 ding. The continuous clear sound was incessant, and it became more rapid, like 10,000 horses galloping. It was so fast that it made people breathless. The 6 elders also slowly retreated. Chu Li saw the body of the sword flash, and hit the back of an elder. The elder's body swayed to avoid it, but he did not expect Chu Li's body to suddenly turn, and his speed increased, and in an instant, he attacked. The elder could only use one hand to block, and it was too late to dodge. He waved his other hand, and his 5 fingers quickly plucked, as if he was playing a pipa, and it made a series of clear sounds. TSS. He suddenly stopped, and then the sword light shot out, easily piercing through his chest, and a bloody hole appeared on his back. He did not even have his protective vigor, and was pierced by the sword light like a normal person. Murong Cho was very surprised. He originally thought that no matter how powerful the sword light was, it would at most wear down the opponent's protective vigor, and that 3 to 5 consecutive sword lights would almost break through the vigor and severely injure these people. He did not expect one sword light to succeed, and it was not obstructed by the protective vigor. This could only mean that Wu Yuanxi's palm was strange, and he broke through the protective vigor, so the sword light easily broke through. Chu Li's palm was the heavenly demonic spirit devouring technique, and it instantly swallowed the elder's palm energy. At the same time, a cloud slashing palm's palm energy entered his body. The palm energy of the cloud slashing palm took the opportunity to enter, and it disrupted the elder's inner energy circulation. The protective vigor could not even be used, and he was severely injured by the sword light. The sword light was sharp, and it did not dissipate after penetrating his body. It rampaged in his body, and damaged his internal organs. In addition, the palm energy of the cloud slashing palm was rampaging, and it devoured his cultivation, causing the elder to be exhausted. TSS. Two sword lights shot through his chest again. Even though he blocked it with his palm, the sword lights still pierced through his heart. He slowly fell, and his face was full of unwillingness. He never thought that he would fall in the hands of two young people. Chu Li lightly slapped another elder with his palm. The other elder did not believe it, and he moved his body to avoid the sword light, and faced Chu Li's palm with all his might. The heavenly demonic spirit devouring technique devoured his palm energy again, and the cloud slashing palm's palm energy drilled in. After the palm energy entered like a river, it was difficult to dispel, and it caused the elder's inner energy circulation to become chaotic. TSS. The sword light shot over in time, and pierced through his heart without any obstruction. The elder slowly fell. Ha, this is satisfying. Murong Cho laughed, and the sword light was like rain everywhere, and there was no way to avoid it. Chu Li's figure became more and more illusory, and the purity of the cloud slashing power greatly increased the power of the soaring divine demon technique. Therefore, his speed was even faster than the 6 elders, and this was also the unique advantage of the flying heaven sect. 2 of the 6 elders fell, and the remaining 4 suddenly had the intention to retreat. The 6 of them were more than enough to deal with 1, but it was difficult to deal with 2. Their figures suddenly became illusory, and they immediately disappeared with the 2 fallen elders. Chu Li was not in a hurry to remove the sacrificial power, and he was still vigilantly looking around. Murong Cho sheathed his sword. There's no need to look, they're scared out of their wits, and they won't dare to come again. Chapter 2085. Chu Li shook his head. Abstruse heart sex people do things in a strange way. I have to guard against them. Murong Cho sneered. If they dare to come out again, I'll just kill them. That saves me a lot of trouble. Let's see if they dare to come after you again. Chu Li said, It's better to be careful. It's really tiring for you to be so careful. Murong Cho did not care. As soon as he finished speaking, a palm suddenly appeared behind him. It broke through the air and hit his back silently. Murong Cho flew out with a bam and spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. Chu Li suddenly appeared where Murong Cho originally was and hit the air. But the palm had already disappeared in the air, silently avoiding Chu Li's hand. After Murong Cho spat out a mouthful of blood in the air, another palm suddenly appeared behind him and hit his back lightly. Bam! Murong Cho's speed suddenly increased, and he spat out another mouthful of blood. These 2 palm energies looked light but were extremely heavy. Murong Cho was immediately heavily injured. Chu Li's figure blurred and appeared beside him. He hit the palm that suddenly appeared. Bam! The owner of the palm appeared out of thin air. It was a round-faced elder. His slightly purple face was shrouded in a layer of black light. The vigor around him circulated as he went all out. Chu Li suddenly disappeared in front of him. The next moment, he appeared behind Murong Cho and once again reached out his palm to meet the palm that appeared out of thin air. Bam! Chu Li collided with the palm again and pulled the elder out of thin air. He didn't have time to deal with the old man, so he appeared behind Murong Cho and grabbed him with one hand. The 2 of them suddenly sped up, and suddenly disappeared from where they stood. The next moment, they appeared 100 meters away, then disappeared again, and appeared another 100 meters away. He was clearly not using the void shifting technique because the Sky Demon Universe lock had already locked him, making it impossible for him to shift through the void. The flying celestial fiend god art was mysterious and extremely fast, but it looked like void shifting. Murong Cho coughed violently and blood gushed out of his mouth. After being grabbed by Chu Li, he quickly pointed at his chest and spat out another mouthful of blood. His expression relaxed. Chu Li's figure was like lightning. It was hazy and blurry. He could not be seen clearly and did not give anyone a chance. How is it? I won't die, right? Chu Li asked. Murong said hatefully, Those old thieves really deserve to die. They deserve to die, but we can't kill them now. Chuli said as he activated the flying demon technique. Hurry up and heal yourself. We'll join forces to deal with them. Not for the time being, Morong Cho said. Bam, 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 bam. Chuli suddenly struck out a few palms. Another 6 palms appeared in the void and struck out at the 2 of them. 3 of them struck at Morong Cho while the other 3 struck at Chuli. They struck out almost simultaneously. Chuli ignored himself and blocked the 3 palm strikes that were aimed at Morong Cho. Pft! He spat out a mouthful of blood and sped up again. Morong Cho's gaze sharpened slightly and he snorted and said, "Don't worry about me. Take care of yourself first." Chuli shook his head. "They've used the heavenly demonic universe lock. No matter how fast my body movement technique is, I won't be able to shake them off. Be careful." "Damn, the celestial demon universe lock." Morong Cho snorted and said, "If I wasn't injured, I could still do something, but now I can't. Put me down and quickly run." Chuli snorted and said, "I don't have this habit. Be careful." He sped up again, and the route he took became even more bizarre and twisted. He was suddenly in front and suddenly behind, suddenly left and suddenly right. It was unpredictable. It was impossible to predict his route based on his movements, so there was no way to ambush him. The flying demon technique's profoundness was displayed. Such complicated changes were easily done, as if it was as easy as drinking water. It did not slow down his speed at all. For a moment, it was as if the 6 elders had disappeared. Morong Cho took a pill, and took the opportunity to recover. He strived to be able to use his sword as soon as possible. Chuli spat out another mouthful of blood. "I won't die, right?" Morong Cho scoffed. Chuli shook his head. "These old fellows are indeed extraordinary. Their palm energy is ruthless enough." He used the heavenly demonic spirit devouring technique and completely absorbed the palm energy of the 3 elders. He was not injured. The heavenly demonic spirit devouring technique was least afraid of such pure palm energy. However, this secret technique could not be exposed. It needed to be disguised and become the final trump card. If he did not spit out blood, it would be too suspicious. Morong Cho said, "If I can survive this, I'll definitely slaughter a few old fellows from the Profound Heart sect." Chuli shook his head and smiled. "That depends on your ability. If it's one-on-one, I can kill them like slaughtering chickens." Morong Cho scoffed. Chuli nodded. If he really had to face these elders, he could handle them one by one. However, the Profound Heart sect's strength lay in their schemes and plots. If they were to fall into a one-on-one situation, it would be a failure for them. They would often bully the few with numbers. They did not care about the rules of the martial arts world and only cared about the result. He spoke as he sped forward. His figure flickered and changed constantly. He kept changing his route and kept moving forward. He did not forget the direction of the Heavenly Water sect. His mission was to deliver a letter to the Heavenly Water sect. There was indeed a letter that he needed to deliver. After an hour, Morong Cho said, "I'm done." Chuli immediately let go of him, and let out a long sigh of relief. "They've escaped too. They'll come again." Morong Cho scoffed. "They'll definitely doubt if I'm alright or not." Chuli nodded. The 2 of them sat cross-legged on a treetop and channeled to heal their injuries. Bang! Chuli slammed his palm into the void. Chi! Morong Cho unsheathed the long sword at his waist. A cold glint shot out. Suddenly, an elder appeared in the void in front of Chuli. He slowly fell to the ground, clutching his chest. His face was filled with shock and unwillingness. Chuli laughed out loud. Morong Cho scoffed, "Come on, come again." The surrounding void was quiet. The other 5 elders did not appear. Bang! The elder with the sword in his chest fell to the ground from the void. Then, 2 elders appeared from the void and pulled the elder away. Chuli did not use his palm and Morong Cho did not use his sword. Murong Cho knew that if it was not for Chu Li's strange palm energy that could block the profound heart sect elder's protective energy, his sword energy would not have been so effective. The two of them worked together to kill the enemy. Otherwise, they would not even be able to hurt the profound heart sect elders. They're honest now, right? Murong Cho scoffed. Chu Li nodded lightly. They won't dare to come out again this time. At least they know what's good for them, Murong Cho scoffed. Chu Li said, It's our turn to hunt them down. Murong Cho looked at him in surprise. Chu Li said, I have the heavenly demonic universe lock on me. They will sense it, but at the same time I can also sense them, so, all right, go and kill them. Murong Cho nodded without hesitation. Then let's go, Chu Li smiled. Murong Cho was straightforward in his actions. He was someone who could cooperate with him. There was no need to worry that he would secretly trip them up. The two of them moved quickly and disappeared into the forest again. After chasing for a while, Chu Li finally shook his head. There's no need to chase anymore. Murong Cho frowned at him. Chu Li sighed. The heavenly demonic universe lock has been removed. I can't sense them anymore. You can't sense them, but I can. Murong Cho scoffed. After the sword energy entered his body, he could sense it too. Chu Li said, That's useless. Can you catch up to them? Chapter 2086. Alright, let's give it a try. Chu Li smiled disapprovingly. He was confident in his light body technique. Murong Cho's light body technique was not as good as his. If he did not bring Qin Mengyun along, Murong Cho would not be able to catch up to him even with his sword. Now that Murong Cho wanted to bring him along, he would not be able to catch up to the elders of Profound Heart Sect. However, Murong Cho was full of confidence. Chu Li would not pour cold water on him and let him try. Murong Cho pulled him along and disappeared in a flash. The next moment, he appeared in another place, using void diversion. Chu Li could not help but raise his eyebrows. No wonder Murong Cho was so confident. Being able to use void diversion, there was indeed hope. After Murong Cho consecutively shifted twice, he frowned and stopped moving. He said hatefully, Cunning old fellas. Chu Li said, Do you still sense anything? I'm afraid they noticed something, Murong Cho said. If they did not sense anything, they would not have changed their location. These people must be carrying people who were either injured or dying. That was why they would not use void diversion to return to Profound Heart Sect. This was his chance. He looked straightforward and unsophisticated, but that didn't mean he was stupid. He wasn't smart and didn't know how to scheme. He immediately thought of the flaws of the three elders of the Profound Heart Sect. He was confident that he could kill two more of them. However, he did not expect these people to be from Profound Heart Sect. They were full of schemes and had their guard up. Chu Li's expression changed slightly. He quickly said, You noticed something? Or they are used to being careful, Murong Cho scoffed. Their location is constantly changing, it's hard to deal with them. Chu Li quickly said, Then let's not chase after them. Murong Cho gave him a sidelong glance. Such a good opportunity not to chase after them? You already have a death grudge with Profound Heart Sect. If we don't chase after them, they won't be grateful. Chu Li said, I'm just afraid that they will set a trap and lure us in. It can't be? Murong Cho frowned. He really did not think of this. He was shocked when he heard it. Chu Li scoffed. Never underestimate Profound Heart Sect's schemes. It's better to be careful. Let's stop here and ignore them. Then you're waiting for them to catch up to us? Murong Cho said. If it were me, I would have taken the initiative to kill my way to their doorstep. Who cares about Profound Heart Sect or Profound Body Sect? Chu Li shook his head and said, I want to too, but unfortunately, I don't have the ability to do so. Why don't the two of us join hands? Murong Cho said, Since I have become sworn enemies with them, killing two more is two. He felt that teaming up with Chu Li was extremely satisfying. Chu Li was extremely intelligent and had a tacit understanding with him to be able to keep up with him. It was truly a rare sight. If they could work together, they would definitely be able to kill the Mystic Heart sect until they were scared witless. Thinking of this, he grinned happily. Chu Li sighed. Let's stop before we go too far. If we continue to kill, we'll be the ones to suffer. As if you won't be unlucky if you don't kill him. Morong Cho snorted. Chu Li thought for a while and said, I still have business to attend to. I need to send a letter to the Heavenly Water sect. Let's bid farewell first and work together again in the future if there's a chance. Don't. Since you're going to the Tianshui sect, I'll go with you. Morong Cho said, who knows, we might run into people from the Profound Heart sect on the way. How about we kill them all? Chu Li frowned and looked at him. You're going to the Tianshui sect too? Morong Cho said, I have nothing to do anyway. I'll go with you. Chu Li looked him up and down and said helplessly, all right. Morong Cho was instantly dissatisfied. You're not willing to go with me? Not everyone is qualified to have me as their bodyguard. Chu Li smiled. Thank you very much then. Let's go now. Let's go, Morong Cho said. The two of them used their light body technique and flew as fast as lightning. Morong Cho secretly competed with him. He had to be faster than him. However, Chu Li cultivated the flying divine demon technique. His speed was like lightning. He could move in a straight line and move in a zigzag pattern at will. He could really move as his heart desired. After competing for a day, Morong Cho no longer had the mood. Chu Li's light body technique made him despair. He might as well give up on the idea of competing. Along the way, he talked about some interesting things in the martial arts world. 2 days later, the two of them arrived at the Tianshui sect. Chu Li handed the letter to the people of the Tianshui sect. The two of them stood under the mountain gate of the Tianshui sect. The sun was bright and the breeze was gentle. They were ready to part ways. Morong Cho took out a small sword the size of a thumb and passed it to Chu Li. This is my token. Take this and you can find me at the Sword Demon sect at any time. Chu Li looked at the exquisite small sword. Although it was not edged, it flashed a sharp chill as if it could really hurt people. Morong Cho said, if you really encounter danger, you can use your inner energy to activate it. I will be able to sense it and teleport over at any time. If it's anything else, don't look for me. If the people from the Profound Heart sect come, just call me. Chu Li smiled and nodded. Thank you. I won't hold back then. What about you? Morong Cho asked. Chu Li smiled. Brother Morong, do you still need my token? Do you need my help? What if we really meet people from the Profound Heart sect? Morong Cho scoffed. Don't worry. If it's not from the Profound Heart sect, I won't alarm you. Chu Li took out the ebony token and passed it over. This is my token. You understand. As long as it is activated, you will naturally be able to sense it and come over at any time. That's good. Morong Cho put it away. I still have to tell you this. Don't meddle in the business between me and Miss Qin. Chu Li shook his head. I'm going to meddle in this matter. Then don't blame me for being rude. Morong Cho scoffed. It won't be so easy next time. Don't get hurt by my hands. Chu Li said, that might not be the case. Morong Cho sneered and suddenly disappeared. Chu Li smiled and shook his head. He disappeared as well and appeared at the foot of the mountain of the Flying Heaven sect. He then entered the sect and came to a basilica. He met Hu Tianlai and reported everything that happened along the way. He even told him in detail about his encounter with Morong Cho and their cooperation against the enemy. Hu Tianlai's Dark Temple was responsible for intelligence and assassinations. Even if he did not say anything, he would not be able to hide it from Hu Tianlai. It was better to be honest. He could not afford to be suspected by others now. Morong Cho. Hu Tianlai nodded slowly and stroked his beard. He smiled. This is a powerful person. His position in the Sword Demon sect is similar to your position in the Flying Heaven sect. Chu Li said, although he's overbearing, he's not a bad person. This guy is willful and reckless. He's ruthless, Hu Tianlai said. It's better to be careful. Chu Li nodded. Is the Sword Demon sect really much stronger than the Flying Heaven sect? Hu Tianlai looked at him and sighed. We're slightly weaker. What's so powerful about the Sword Demon sect? Chu Li frowned. Hu Tianlai said, the sword techniques of the Sword Demon sect are very powerful. Although it requires an extremely high aptitude to cultivate, as long as one can master any set of sword techniques, they will have earth-shattering abilities. What sword techniques do they have? Chu Li asked. There are many sword techniques, but it's difficult to pass them down. Hu Tianlai shook his head. The innate talent of swordsmanship is very strict. One's body and comprehension are indispensable. For example, Murong Chao's Imperial Sword, Zhou Han's Heaven Worship Sword, and Jing Xiangguang's Heaven Killing Sword. Chapter 2087. Why, have you heard of the Sky Killer? Hu Tianlai grinned. The power of the Sky Killer is not inferior to the Imperial Sword and the Worship Sword. It's also earth-shattering. Chu Li said, I heard that the Sky Killer has a fatal weakness. You mean burning one's lifespan? Hu Tianlai asked. Chu Li nodded. It seemed like it was the Sky Killer that he knew. It does have this weakness. Hu Tianlai nodded. But the Sky Killer will only burn its lifespan after using a secret skill. It won't happen without the secret skill, but it's already powerful enough. Chu Li frowned. I really want to see it. Since you're good friends with Murong Cho, you should visit the Sword Demon sect if you have the chance. But the Profound Heart sect is keeping a close eye on you. It's better for you to rest, Hu Tianlai said. Chu Li nodded. He could not wait to test if the Sword Demon sect's Sky Killer was the same as the one he cultivated. Previously, he knew that the heaven-regaining sword originated from the heavenly demon. He thought that this sword technique was also a secret in the heavenly demon realm and was extremely rare. He never expected that he would obtain news of the heaven-regaining sword so easily. It was truly a case of wearing out iron shoes in fruitless searching, finding it by chance without even looking for it. Suddenly, footsteps could be heard outside. It was hurried and messy. It was obvious that the owner of the footsteps was anxious. Hall Master. A clear voice came from outside. What's the matter? Hu Tianlai asked. His smiling face darkened as he displayed the dignity of the Dark Hall Master. Senior Brother Huang is in trouble. A young man in black lifted the curtain and entered the basilica carefully. Hu Tianlai snorted solemnly. What happened? Senior Brother Huang was killed. The young man in black said. Chu Li's expression changed. Junior Brother Huang is dead? The young man in black said. Senior Brother Wu, Senior Brother Huang is indeed dead. We're bringing his corpse back. Chu Li turned to look at Hu Tianlai. Why did Junior Brother Huang leave the sect? This was a critical period, and the Profound Heart sect was looking for trouble with him like crazy. It was inevitable that they would take their anger out on the other disciples of the Flying Heaven sect, especially an outstanding disciple like Huang Heming. With the death of a top-notch young disciple like Mo Zhishuan, the Profound Heart sect would definitely want to kill off the most outstanding young disciple of the Flying Heaven sect. If they met Huang Heming, they would definitely not let him go. How could they let him leave the sect at this time? He had some personal matters and left the sect on his own. Hu Tianlai frowned. Is there no hope? The corpse has already hardened, the black-clothed youth said in a low voice. The soul has long since left the body. I'm afraid it has already reincarnated. Damn it! Hu Tianlai slammed the table. Purring! The table fell to the ground and shattered into a pile of sawdust. Chu Li remained silent. Hu Tianlai asked coldly, Do you know the murderer? The black-clothed youth shook his head lightly. Chu Li took a deep breath and said, "It's very possible that it's the Profound Heart sect, but I can't say for sure. It might be another sect that took the opportunity to stir up trouble. I must take revenge." The black-clothed youth said, "We speculate that it's the Profound Heart sect's revenge." Hu Tianlai took a deep breath and said in a cold voice, "We must take revenge." After uttering these words, his face tensed up and he let out a breath. "We must first look at the corpse before we can make a conclusion. It might not be the Profound Heart sect's doing. We must be careful of people fanning the flames." Chu Li nodded. "If it really is the Profound Heart sect, I will personally take revenge for junior brother Huang." "We will all do it." Hu Tianlai laughed coldly. "Do they really think that the Flying Heaven sect is afraid of the Profound Heart sect and doesn't dare to start a war with them?" Chu Li hurriedly said, "Masters Junior, be careful. Once a war broke out, it would not be a matter of 1 or 2 people dying. It would be a matter of tens, hundreds, or even hundreds of people dying." Hu Tianlai took a deep breath and said, "This matter will definitely alert the sect leader. Junior nephew Huang is not an ordinary disciple. Everyone had high hopes for him. Now that he has died outside the sect, it's unforgivable." Chu Li nodded. Huang Hemming's aptitude was considered top-notch. If there were no accidents, he would definitely become an elder. However, now that he had died without a trace, the Flying Heaven sect would definitely not allow it. They must find the murderer and take revenge. Hu Tianlai glanced at Chu Li and said, "Now you finally know what it's like to be in the Profound Heart sect. So, Yuan Si, don't go out anymore. They will definitely kill you." "Yes." Chu Li nodded. "You can go first. I have to start working," Hu Tianlai said. Chu Li stood up and fist saluted before leaving. After he returned to his courtyard, he inexplicably felt guilty. Huang Hemming was probably killed because of him. Even if it was not the Profound Heart sect who did it, it must be an excuse to sow discord between the Flying Heaven sect and the Profound Heart sect. It was all because he killed Mo Jishuan. Then, he secretly shook his head. The heavenly demonic realm was the enemy of the Grandmaster realm. They were the enemies of the lower realm. They caused chaos in the world and countless martial arts masters died. They really did not deserve sympathy. He should not sympathize with their enemies. However, he still felt inexplicably guilty. Huang Hemming had a bright heart. He was more open and magnanimous than most people he had met. Whether it was the lower realm or the Grandmaster realm, it was rare to see such a broad-minded person. Even his enemies would feel sorry for him. He sighed and shook his head. There was news about the heaven-regaining sword. He could not wait to go to the Sword Demon sect to find out more. In the evening, Huang Hemming's body was transported back to the sect. The entire Flying Heaven sect was silent. Both sides of the path up the mountain were filled with disciples. They watched as Huang Hemming's body was carried up the mountain. All of them looked solemn and solemn. They did not say a word as they suppressed their anger. Huang Hemming's body was directly sent to the basilica in the middle. 8 elders personally checked his injuries and searched for the murderer. Although Chu Li was disguised as Wu Yuanxi, who was young and not a disciple of the Templar, he was invited into the basilica by Hu Tianlai. It was the first time he met the sect leader, Zhao Lingfeng. Zhao Lingfeng looked like a middle-aged man with a slim figure and handsome features. No matter how one looked at him, he did not look like the leader of a sect. He did not have the dignified aura that he usually exuded. Instead, he looked more like an elegant scholar. Chu Li followed Hu Tianlai into the basilica. Zhao Lingfeng was sitting on the main seat in deep thought. When he heard footsteps, he looked up and nodded at Chu Li, who was giving him a fist salute. Chu Li did not say much. He stood at the side and looked at Huang Hemming's body. Huang Hemming looked normal. He did not look like he was dead. Instead, he looked like he had fallen asleep. His face was still rosy, but he was no longer breathing. Chuli felt a sense of familiarity when he looked at him. He quickly thought of the enlightened master's remains. They were lifelike and indestructible. They could exist forever. Chuli frowned and looked at Hu Tianlai. Among the 10 people in the basilica, he was only familiar with Hu Tianlai. He was unfamiliar with the other 8 elders. Hu Tianlai said, "Fortunately, Hemming cultivated the secret reincarnation technique. He can still return to the sect. However, is the enemy the Profound Heart sect?" Chuli knew why Huang Hemming looked like this. It seemed that there was a secret technique. Otherwise, he would not look like the enlightened master's remains. "It's the Profound Heart sect." A trembling elder with white eyebrows and beard said slowly, "What's real is fake, and what's fake is real." Hemming was done by the Profound Heart sect. He used the soul separation palm. It's a palm technique that would never be taught to outsiders. Chuli searched for the soul separation palm in his mind, but could not find it. Chapter 2088. The old man looked like he was about to take his last breath at any moment, but his voice was as loud as a bell. It sounded weak, but his voice was loud enough to shake one's heart. His cultivation level was truly impressive. Chuli knew that his cultivation level was not as high as his. If this old man's martial arts were not inferior to his, then in a real fight to the death, he might not be able to win. It seemed that his cultivation level had not reached the highest level yet. He was only at the top of the martial arts world, but he would not be able to fight against these hidden old men. After all, they had a long lifespan, and the accumulation of skills was unimaginable. It seems that Mystic Heart sect does not want to play tricks this time. They want to use force, another old man said slowly. Otherwise, they would not have used the soul separation palm. Is this revenge for Mo Jishuan's death? Another old man asked. What should we do? Of course we kill them. The trembling old man said slowly. What is there to say? They are already here, how can we show weakness? Otherwise, everyone will kill our disciples. Yes, we kill them. The other 7 old men nodded, their expressions serious. Chuli did not expect these trembling old men, who looked like they had 1 foot in the grave, to be so hot-blooded and full of fighting spirit. They were really different from ordinary old men. If it was an ordinary old man, he would unknowingly be conservative. He would only want to protect what he had and not destroy it. He would live a peaceful life without any fighting spirit. The trembling old man looked at Zhao Lingfeng. Zhao Lingfeng stood in front of the basilica's window with his hands behind his back. He looked outside silently and did not say a word. Everyone looked at Zhao Lingfeng. He was the sect leader, and he had to make the decision on such a big matter. No matter how much the elders argued, they still had to listen to the sect leader. This was where the sect leader's authority lay, and also where the pressure was. Chuli could see Zhao Lingfeng's hesitation and struggle. This matter seemed easy. It was Mystic Heart sect's revenge. As long as Flying Heaven sect did not pursue the matter, it was likely that they would be even. If they stopped fighting, one of their top young disciples would die, and no one would owe each other anything. Then, the 2 sects would not interfere with each other's business. If there was another conflict in the future, the grudge would be settled first. In this way, the 2 sects wouldn't fall into a difficult situation. They could secretly nurture their young disciples to fight for their honor. In any case, people were already dead and couldn't be revived. They had already reincarnated. If they pursued this matter and took revenge, the 2 sects would definitely go to war. Once a war broke out, the scale of the war would not be controllable. The 2 sects that were in a state of loss of control would definitely be hit by a third party or other forces. Taking advantage of the situation, it would be fine if the 2 sects suffered heavy losses, but there was even the worry of the sects being annihilated. However, if they did not pursue the matter, there would be repercussions in the future. The Profound Heart sect would feel that they had an opportunity to take advantage of, and they would push their luck. At that time, it would be hard to avoid a battle, and the other sects might even see their weakness and take advantage of it. The choice was truly difficult to make immediately, and they needed to be extremely cautious. A single thought could lead to the destruction of the sect. Chu Li shook his head. This was the sect leader's problem. As a disciple, he could only follow orders. Sect Master, the trembling old man said in a deep voice, Sect Master, do you still want to mind your own business? Sigh. Zhao Lingfeng sighed. I really don't know if this is the right move. Will I become the eternal sinner of the sect? Sect Master, if we're afraid of war, then the Flying Heaven sect will be annihilated sooner or later. The old man scoffed. We have to put up a desperate fight. Whoever dares to provoke us, we'll fight them. We have nothing to lose. That's too risky. Zhao Lingfeng shook his head with his hands behind his back. This is not the right way. Sect Master, don't learn from those people from the Grandmaster realm. They've lost their courage, and they only care about benefits all day long. Think about it, all the disciples in the sect have seen the cry of the crane. If we suppress it, they'll be very disappointed. The old man took a deep breath and said slowly, morale should be boosted rather than lost. If this morale is extinguished, it'll be difficult to gather it again. In the future, when others come to us, we'll be like a plate of loose sand. We'll definitely lose, and the destruction of the sect will not be far away. Zhao Lingfeng nodded slowly, and his expression gradually became serious. If that's the case, then let's start the war. We won't send out the ordinary disciples, but let the elders move first. We'll directly eliminate their young disciples. Good idea. The trembling old man chuckled. This is the aura of a sect master. Let's cut the weeds and eliminate the root. Let's see what future they have. Let all the disciples return to the sect first. Zhao Lingfeng pondered. Elder Jing, it's time to use the 6 hermit peak. Yes, let the young disciples enter the hermit peaks. The old man nodded. Let's take it slow and don't let anyone find out. Wait until the disciples enter the hermit peaks, then we old men will move. I'm afraid that the abstruse heart sect will be on guard. Zhao Lingfeng pondered. Looks like we'll have to divert our attention. Then let's do something big. Elder Jing stretched out his trembling hand and touched his snow-white beard. Chu Li then said, Sect Master, Elder Jing, let me do it. Elder Jing looked at Chu Li. Of course, he saw Chu Li and knew him. Wu Yuanci was the youth champion, and even the future sect master candidate. As an elder, how could he not recognize him? However, because Chu Li's seniority was too low, he could not speak on such an occasion. Chu Li said, Sect Master, Elder Jing, I'll be able to attract their attention by leaving the sect. You? Elder Jing frowned. Zhao Lingfeng said, It's too dangerous. Chu Li smiled. Sect Master, don't worry. I met Morong Cho from the Sword Demon sect when I went down the mountain. We've made an appointment to meet the people from the Abstruse Heart sect. The two of us will be able to protect ourselves if we work together. Zhao Lingfeng smiled. The Sword Demon sect? He was a little relieved. It was not easy to be on good terms with the disciples of the Sword Demon sect. The disciples of the Sword Demon sect were arrogant and domineering. They were unscrupulous and arrogant. They never took their peers seriously. Chu Li said, with Murong Chao's help, I can retreat unscathed. Moreover, as long as the disciples return to the hermit peaks, the elders will lend me a hand. Then you'll have to hold on until the disciples return, Elder Jing said. Young man, are you confident? Chu Li slowly nodded. I have no problem. Elder Jing looked at Zhao Lingfeng and smiled. Sect Master, Yuanci is really lucky. It seems that it's time to let him go out and experience the wind and rain. All right. Zhao Lingfeng slowly nodded. If things go wrong, return to the sect immediately. Hall Leader Hu. Yes, Sect Master. Hu Tianlai fist saluted. Zhao Lingfeng said, Give Yuanci a void breaching pearl. Yes. Hu Tianlai responded. Zhao Lingfeng was satisfied. The abstruse heart sect is cunning. Don't be careless. Remember, your principle is to delay for a little more time, not to kill. Yes. Chu Li Fist saluted solemnly. Go. Zhao Lingfeng waved his hand. Chapter 2089. Chu Li followed Hu Tianlai out of the basilica. Along the way, the two of them were silent, and the atmosphere was unspeakably heavy. Chu Li did not speak until they arrived at the dark basilica. After entering the basilica, Hu Tianlai said, "No one is allowed to come close." Yes. The two black-robed young men outside the basilica closed-fist saluted and let down the curtain. Both of them left. The spacious basilica was empty with only the two of them sitting on the armchairs. Chu Li twisted his body and pretended to be uncomfortable. "You," Hu Tianlai sighed. "You're messing around. Do you think I'm joking? You're really obsessed." He glared at Chu Li angrily as if he had expected better from Chu Li. He shook his head and said, "Even if you want to make a contribution, you can't be too eager for quick success. That could cost you your life. Do you think you're invincible?" Chu Li smiled. What happened just now was a rare opportunity. As long as he could complete the mission safely, he would be much more important in the eyes of the elders and sect master, and it would be much easier for him to enter the upper echelons. They would also not think of training him and shorten the time for him to enter the upper echelons. After all, it looked like a suicide mission. Chu Li smiled. "Masters Junior, don't worry. I'm confident." "Confident my A**s," Hu Tianlai shouted. "Do you think the elders of Profound Heart Sect are made of clay? Are they just for show? Are they just for show? They're made by killing people." Chu Li nodded. "But I can't just hole up in the sect and not go out, right? You'll need to be stronger in martial arts first. If you go out now, you'll die," Hu Tianlai said. Chu Li changed the topic. "Masters Junior, do you think it's the doing of Profound Heart Sect?" "I can't be wrong." Hu Tianlai nodded. "Honorable Master Jing and the others won't be wrong. The soul separation palm is not an ordinary palm technique. Outsiders can't learn it, so it must be the doing of Profound Heart Sect's disciples." Chu Li said, "If Profound Heart Sect can send someone like Emoji Xuan, why can't others enter Profound Heart Sect like Emoji Xuan?" "It's difficult," Hu Tianlai said. "They rely on tricks to gain their footing. It's difficult for others to trick them." Chu Li shook his head and smiled. "I think they're using the same tactic against others after they've suffered." Hu Tianlai remained silent. Chu Li said, "I think it's better to investigate thoroughly during this period of time to see if there's anyone outside of the Profound Heart Sect who has cultivated the soul separation palm. Otherwise, they might fall into a trap and be used as a tool." "Yes, I will investigate." Hu Tianlai nodded slowly. Chu Li heaved a sigh of relief and said, "I'm relieved that Master's uncle is here." Hu Tianlai took out an earthy yellow bead the size of a longan. It looked dull and lifeless, as if it was made of mud. He handed it to Chu Li. "This is the void-breaching bead." "Void-breaching bead?" Chu Li took it in puzzlement. He felt a strange fluctuation, but it soon disappeared. His senses were abnormally sharp, and he soon discovered that this trace of fluctuation was connected to the void. It was indeed a little strange. Since it was personally given by the sect master, it must not be an ordinary treasure. Otherwise, the sect master would not have paid any attention to it. "It can break through the void," Hu Tianlai said. "As long as you crush this, you can break through the void and return to our sect directly. Unfortunately, it can only be used once." "Is it possible to break the heavenly demonic universe lock?" Chu Li hurriedly asked. Hu Tianlai nodded slowly. "It can be broken." Chu Li let out a smile. "It really is a treasure." His biggest headache was the heavenly demonic universe lock. Once he was entangled, He could not escape even with God's limbs and void diversion. He could not break through the void and come and go freely. He could only use light body technique, which was tantamount to being tied up. He could only take a beating and could not escape. Hu Tianlai said, "This void-breaching bead is extremely precious. Use it carefully. We can't give you another one." Chu Li smiled and nodded. "Master's uncle, is there any other way to break the heavenly demonic universe lock? It's difficult for you." Hu Tianlai shook his head. "The sword demon sect's sword technique is fine, but you can't do it. There's no other way. We can break it when we cultivate the soaring divine demon technique to a high level." Chu Li asked, "How high level do I need?" Hu Tianlai said, "At least the 7th level. Can you cultivate it?" Chu Li shook his head. "I've only cultivated to the 5th level." Hu Tianlai looked at him in surprise and sized him up. "You've cultivated to the 5th level?" "Yes." Chu Li nodded. "I have some understanding of this. That's rare. You're indeed a genius." Hu Tianlai nodded in satisfaction. "There are very few people who can cultivate to the 5th level. The soaring divine demon technique is very difficult to cultivate. I've only cultivated to the 6th level." Chu Li smiled. Hu Tianlai was still young. Although he was very talented, he was still far behind Chu Li. The soaring divine demon technique was very particular about talent. It was due to his own comprehension that Hu Tianlai was able to cultivate to the 5th level in one go. Hu Tianlai said, "All right, since you've cultivated to the 5th level, I'll be relieved when we get out. Even if you can't defeat them, you can still outrun them." Chu Li nodded. "However, remember not to be greedy. Just hold them back and don't try to kill them," Hu Tianlai reminded him. Chu Li stood up and fist saluted. He turned around and left the dark temple. He went down the mountain and left the sect. In a flash, he appeared at the foot of a towering mountain. The mountain was like a sword that pierced straight into the ground. It was straight and steep. For ordinary people, it was impossible for them to climb it. They could only watch it from afar. Chu Li looked up at the towering mountain and felt that it was probably where the sword demon sect was. He could sense the ebony plate that he gave to Murong Cho at any time. He could directly lock onto its position and use God's limbs to chase after it. However, the mountain was protected by a formation. He instinctively felt danger and subconsciously stayed away. Fortunately, Murong Cho had already returned to the sect. He wanted to inquire about the sky regicide sword and even see it for himself. He suddenly froze and frowned as he looked into the distance. He sensed that the ebony plate suddenly left the mountain in front of him and disappeared. After a while, it appeared in the far west. He was suddenly curious as to why Murong Cho went there. He suddenly disappeared in a flash and appeared near Murong Cho. He did not immediately appear in front of Murong Cho to prevent him from getting angry. He could be seen and monitored at any time. How could he still carry the ebony plate? He stood at the peak of a mountain and looked down at Murong Cho, who was standing at the foot of the dancing butterfly sect. Murong Cho was standing in the same place, quietly looking in the direction of the dancing butterfly sect's peak. He seemed to be waiting for someone. After a while, Qin Mengyun fluttered over in a lake green gown. She floated down like a cloud, her movements graceful and graceful. "You still dare to come over?" Qin Mengyun's face turned cold. She sneered. "How dare you? I'm here to look for Senior Lu." Murong Cho was dressed in a green gown. He stood with his hands behind his back and looked at her arrogantly. "Proposing marriage to Senior Lu isn't forcing you, is it?" "You!" Qin Mengyun was instantly furious. She said coldly, "You're really delusional. If you're not afraid of death, just wait and see how Master will deal with you." "Why would Senior Lu deal with me? I'm a junior." Murong Cho curled his lips and smiled faintly. "Moreover, with my cultivation level, not everyone can deal with me. Chapter 2090. Ma Fu! Her voice was melodious and pleasant to the ear, like a silver bell ringing in the sky, spreading far and wide without dissipating. Qin Mengyan glanced at Murong Cho proudly. Don't run if you have the guts. Murong Cho sneered. Run? What a joke, why would I run? Alright, let's see how gutsy you are. Qin Mengyan scoffed. She was proud of herself. Murong Cho was really arrogant. He actually dared to provoke butterfly dance sect. Did he really think that master had a good temper? Chu Li broke out in cold sweat for Murong Cho. Lu Qingxue was not an ordinary person. She was definitely a powerful person. Although Murong Cho was strong, he was not strong enough to provoke Lu Qingxue. Although Lu Qingxue was a senior, who knew what she would do as a woman. A ripple suddenly appeared in the air. Lu Qingxue stood in front of the two and glanced at the mountain in the distance. Her clear eyes met with Chu Li's. Chu Li was shocked. He did not expect that Lu Qingxue could still sense him from so far away and with his aura concealed. He then shook his head. Logically, she should not have sensed him. After all, the life and death scripture's concealment ability was unparalleled. Could it be that she was watching from afar? Lu Qingxue wore a purple robe and her face was covered with a purple veil. It made her skin even whiter and more flawless. Her eyes were like an ice spring, clear and cold. It made people afraid to approach her. Murong Cho stepped forward fearlessly and closed fist saluted. Senior Lu. Lu Qingxue waved her hand and said, You are Murong Cho? Yes, Murong Cho said. His eyes were bright as he stared at Lu Qingxue. There was no fear in his eyes. Instead, he was calm and closed fist saluted. I am here to ask for your hand in marriage. Lu Qingxue glanced at him and said, I heard that you wanted to snatch Mengyan last time. Murong Cho said, I really like Miss Qin, so I was a bit impulsive. Impulsive? Lu Qingxue said, so if I did not appear today, you would still snatch her. Well. Murong Cho hesitated and shook his head. I know now that snatching her won't work. Naturally, I won't. Lu Qingxue raised her eyebrows. You actually know about this? How rare. Murong Cho could hear the sarcasm in her tone and was slightly unhappy. He calmly asked, Does Senior agree to this marriage? Although he respected Lu Qingxue as a senior and Qin Mingyan's master, this senior did not have the demeanor of a senior. She had always been calculative with him, so he could only speak with a sullen face and stop indulging her. Lu Qingxue shook her head. I don't agree. You don't agree? Murong Cho frowned. His face darkened as he said, Senior, please reconsider. There's nothing to think about. Lu Qingxue said faintly, I don't like you. You're arrogant and ignorant. You treat women like nothing. I can imagine what kind of life Mengyan will lead if she marries you. So, no matter how strong your martial arts are or how powerful the sword demon sect is, I will never marry Mengyan to you. Murong Cho's face darkened. Lu Qingxue said, Did you see Xiao Meng marrying the sword demon sect back then? So you had an illusion that you can be like him and take a woman as your wife? You don't have that ability. I don't have that ability? Murong Cho frowned and said in a deep voice, How am I worse than ninth senior brother? You're not as handsome as him. Lu Qingxue shook her head. Murong Cho's face darkened even more. He said coldly, I'm not worse than ninth senior brother, right? Far from it. Lu Qingxue said, Although you're not ugly, you're still miles away from being handsome. Do you always think that you're handsome so women will like you? Of course. Murong Cho scoffed. He had always thought that with his handsome appearance and powerful martial arts, any woman would fall in love with him. Even if they were dissatisfied with him, they would be conquered by his charm after spending some time with him. Lu Qingxue shook her head, and a hint of a smile appeared in her eyes. You really don't know yourself. Your ninth senior brother is the handsome one. That's why after Xiao Meng was snatched away, she quickly fell in love with him. You don't have that kind of appearance, which will only make women hate you more. Don't talk nonsense, Morong Cho shouted. Lu Qingxue said, Are you so used to hearing flattery that you can't listen to unpleasant words? You're talking nonsense, Morong Cho shouted. His face turned red, and he glared at Lu Qingxue. If she was not Qin Mingyun's master, he would have drawn his sword and stabbed her. Lu Qingxue gave him a sidelong glance and said lightly, Also, although your 9th senior brother snatched Xiao Meng away, he treated her extremely well. Now, he's been taught a lesson by Xiao Meng. Can you become like your 9th senior brother? Impossible, Morong Cho scoffed. Lu Qingxue said, Then don't learn from him. Learn something good. If you like a woman, get along well with her. Slowly get to know her and improve your feelings. Don't think about going to the end in one go. Morong Cho said coldly, I'm here to ask for her hand in marriage, not to be taught a lesson. Alright, you can go back now. I won't agree. Even if Mengyun agrees, I won't agree. Besides, Mengyun hates you. Don't waste your time. Lu Qingxue said lightly. You really won't agree? Morong Cho clenched his teeth. Lu Qingxue said, I really won't agree. You'll regret it. Morong Cho glared at her, his eyes shining brightly. Chu Li shook his head in the dark. This Morong Cho was really stubborn and unreasonable. He really did not know how to be tactful in dealing with people. To have such an attitude towards a master who liked women was tantamount to cutting off his own path. Unfortunately, it was too late for him to go out now. Moreover, he had no intention of helping him. It was indeed a pity that Qin Mengyun was matched with him. Although he did not have any improper thoughts about Qin Mengyun, he did not want Morong Cho to get her. Lu Qingxue said, Whether I regret it or not is none of your business. Mengyun, let's go. Yes, master, Qin Mengyun replied with a smile. She did not even look at Morong Cho and turned to leave. Stop right there. Morong Cho shouted and placed his hand on the hilt of his sword. Lu Qingxue had already turned around. Now, she slowly turned back and looked at Morong Cho calmly. She said lightly, You want to fight? You really won't agree? Morong Cho scoffed. Lu Qingxue said, Even if you kill me, I won't agree. Good, good. Morong Cho said coldly, You forced me to do this. Lu Qingxue looked at him and said lightly, What do you want? Once I meet your dancing butterfly sect's disciples, I'll cripple them. Morong Cho laughed coldly. Moreover, I'll ask my brothers to help me deal with your dancing butterfly sect. Interesting. Lu Qingxue was not threatened at all. She shook her head and said, If you really have that ability, I'll have a whole new level of respect for you. Unfortunately, you don't have that ability. Then we'll see. Morong Cho gritted his teeth and scoffed. Lu Qingxue shook her head and looked at him with pity. You'll have to go through your 9th brother and your 9th sister first. 9th brother will definitely stand on my side. Morong Cho scoffed. Chapter 2091. Chu Li shook his head and could not help but sigh. This Morong Cho was really capable. His ability to make enemies was unparalleled in the world. He actually did such a stupid thing and made his relationship with Lu Qingxue and Qin Mengyun worse. His naivety and inflexibility were unparalleled. This was also the first time Lu Qingxue had encountered such a hothead. Furthermore, this hothead had a high level of martial arts and caused great damage. The disciples of the Sword Demon sect were all lawless fellows, so they might really listen to him. If they really listened to him and crippled the Dancing Butterfly sect disciples, the consequences would be unpredictable. The Dancing Butterfly sect was definitely not a match for the Sword Demon sect. Moreover, the relationship between the two sects was very good. If they really fought because of this, it would be really troublesome. Let's go, Mengyun. She took a deep breath to suppress her anger and said slowly. Yes, master. Qin Mengyun quickly nodded. She could see that master was already angry. If Morong Cho added more fuel to the fire, master would definitely explode. Master looked cold and aloof, but in fact, he had an extremely violent temper. Once Master was angered, there would definitely be a storm. She glanced sideways at Murong Cho and curled her lips with a disdainful expression. Murong Cho shouted, "Stop!" Lu Qingxue took a deep breath and turned to look at him. Murong Cho already had his hand on the hilt of his sword. He said, "I heard that Senior Lu's martial arts is superb and was an outstanding talent back then. Even the senior brothers admire you. I would like to learn a thing or two from you." "You want to fight me?" Lu Qingxue said lightly. "Yes." Murong Cho nodded without hesitation. "Please enlighten me. I'm afraid that everyone will say that I'm bullying the weak." Lu Qingxue shook her head. Murong Cho said, "I'll explain to everyone." "All right." Lu Qingxue said, "Then draw your sword. Please." Murong Cho slowly pulled out his sword with a cold glint. Chu Li saw this and shook his head again. Murong Cho was really courting death step by step. Each step was extremely firm and left a deep mark that could not be erased. Putting aside the fact that Qin Mengyun did not like him, even if she did, there was no way out now that things had come to this. Lu Qingxue said, "Come! Watch my sword." Murong Cho immediately shook his long sword, and a sharp sword chi shot out from the sword, arriving in front of Lu Qingxue at an extremely fast speed. It was fine if he did not make a move, but once he did, he would not show any mercy. He would go all out wanting to defeat Lu Qingxue and beat her until she was convinced. His plan was that Lu Qingxue, as a master, would definitely find a reliable home for her disciple. His martial arts were strong enough to protect Qin Mengyun, and Lu Qingxue would change her mind. If her disciple were to follow the world's #1 swordsman, she would definitely not suffer any grievances. On the contrary, she would be able to enjoy limitless glory. As her master, she would be able to bask in the glory. With such thoughts, she would definitely marry Qin Mengyun to her. Thinking of this, he became even more excited, and his fighting spirit soared. He wanted nothing more than to defeat Lu Qingxue with a single sword strike. Ding! The ring of pendant rang out. The jade pendant on Lu Qingxue's waist lightly swayed. Her figure spun, and although it was only a slight turn, it was incomparably graceful, causing people to involuntarily stare at her. They watched as she leisurely swept past the sword chi and arrived in front of Murong Cho, lightly striking his chest with her palm. Murong Cho's protective chi seemed to have lost its effect, and he did not react at all, allowing the palm to firmly imprint on his chest. Bang! Murong Cho was sent flying, crashing into a towering ancient tree. The ancient tree rustled with leaves, and the tree quickly became bare. Then, it rapidly withered at a speed visible to the naked eye. Murong Cho sat under the roots, leaning against the tree trunk, and blood gushed out of his mouth. Lu Qingxue gracefully stepped in front of Murong Cho, lowering her head to look at him. "Do you really think that you are invincible?" Murong Cho widened his eyes in disbelief, and looked up unwillingly. Do you think that you can defeat me because you rarely have a worthy opponent in the martial arts world?" Lu Qingxue frowned and said faintly, "If you want to take revenge, you should go back and train for a few years. Don't spend all your thoughts on women." Murong Cho looked at her blankly, and his face slowly paled. Lu Qingxue said, "You haven't trained your martial arts properly, and you are already thinking about women. What a joke. With your current martial arts, you are not qualified to snatch women. Mengyun, let's go." "Yes, master," Qin Mengyun said excitedly. She disliked Murong Cho very much, and seeing him suffer made her feel extremely happy. She wanted to look up to the sky and cheer and clap with all her might. But she did not want to be taught a lesson by her master, so she restrained her frivolous actions. "What martial arts did you use?" Murong Cho asked unwillingly. Lu Qingxue said, "Swallow butterfly palm," she said, and was about to walk back. "Wait!" Murong Cho shouted. He suddenly bent his knees, straightened his body, and quickly poked his chest a few times. With a wah sound, he spat out a mouthful of black blood. His face immediately became rosy, as if he was not injured at all. Lu Qingxue frowned and looked at him. Murong Cho placed his hand on the hilt of his sword and snorted. Again! Lu Qingxue said, Again? Yes, I can defeat you. Murong Cho said slowly, his expression was solemn, his eyes were bright, and he snorted confidently, It is only a smokescreen again. Very good. Lu Qingxue shook her head. Then let's try again. She lightly flashed, and once again appeared in front of Murong Cho. Chi. Murong Cho closed his eyes and suddenly thrusted his sword, relying on his senses to not let his eyes be deceived. Lu Qingxue's feet spun lightly, and she moved forward while sticking close to his sword, and once again lightly hit his chest with her palm. Bang! The slender jade palm print hit his chest, and the body fortification shield flashed past without any hindrance, and Murong Cho flew out with a muffled sound. Bang! He crashed into a towering ancient tree. Murong Chao's ending was no different from the previous one, and the ancient tree's ending was also different from the previous one. It only let out a muffled sound, and after a few violent tremors, its leaves did not fall. What? Murong Cho spat out a mouthful of blood, and then it continuously gushed out, showing no signs of stopping. Chu Li frowned. This Lu Qingxue was ruthless. In the previous palm strike, most of the palm energy had leaked to the ancient tree, but this palm strike was forcefully concentrated on Murong Chao's body, and did not leak out. Not being able to dissipate the palm energy, and forcefully enduring it, this was the most harmful to the body. Murong Cho stared with his eyes wide. Good! Good! This time, he was finally convinced. He really could not defeat this Lu Qingxue. She was not someone with an undeserved reputation. Lu Qingxue scoffed. Now you're convinced? Cough, 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 cough. Murong Cho violently coughed a few times, and gritted his teeth. I will get back at you for this. I'll be waiting, Lu Qingxue said and turned to leave. Chu Li shook his head and smiled bitterly. This Lu Qingxue's swallow butterfly palm was very powerful, it was very strange, it could really bully the five senses and even intuition, and it was light and agile beyond imagination. No wonder Lu Qingxue had such a great reputation. He reckoned that if he really fought with her, there might be a battle, but if it was a spar against this swallow butterfly palm, it was really hard to say who would win. Miss Lu, you don't have to wait. In the midst of a sigh, a young man slowly appeared from thin air, and stood beside Murong Cho, his clothes white like snow, and his complexion like jade. Lu Qingxue frowned, turned around and lightly said, Dongfang Xiao. Chapter 2092. Miss Lu, that's too much. Dongfang Xiao said calmly. He had sword-like eyebrows, starry eyes, thin lips, and a handsome face. He could naturally attract everyone's attention when he stood there. When he stood with Lu Qingxue, they looked like a perfect couple. Lu Qingxue chuckled and shook her head. What kind of master produces what kind of disciple? Overbearing and disrespectful, your disciple is carved from the same mold as you. Dongfang Xiao smiled. That's because he was young and ignorant. Why do you keep thinking about it? He was like that when he was young, and it's still the same now. Lu Qingxue snorted. If it weren't for you, I would have crippled him long ago. It's a joke to take my disciple as his wife. Well, Dongfang Xiao touched his chin and smiled. Let the young people solve their own problems. As a senior, there is no need to intervene and make everyone unhappy. Dongfang Xiao, what do you want to do? Lu Qingxue snorted. Are you going to fight with me for your disciple? I have experienced Miss Lu's martial arts. I'm not your opponent. Dongfang Xiao smiled. It's really unwise for Xiao Cho to provoke you, but as a senior, you shouldn't be so harsh. This is also wrong. Then what do you want to do? Lu Qingxue snorted. I'm telling you in advance, if he pesters my disciple again, don't blame me for being ruthless. You know that. Your disciple is indeed smart and lovely. She's a good match. Dongfang Xiao stood with his hands behind his back and looked at Qin Mengyun. He smiled and said, "No wonder Xiao Chou is so obsessed with her." "Of course," Lu Qingxue said. Dongfang Xiao said, "If that's the case, then let her be Xiao Chou's wife." "Nonsense," Lu Qingxue sneered. "Do you want to take her away for your disciple?" "What are you talking about?" Dongfang Xiao waved his hand and smiled. "I can't do such a thing. I just want to discuss with you." "Then I'll make it clear to you, there's no way," Lu Qingxue said coldly. "Don't even think about it. My disciple will never marry your disciple. Just give up." "What's wrong with a small grudge?" Dongfang Xiao shook his head. "Except that he is a little straightforward, his martial arts and character are impeccable. He will be a top figure in the future. Is he not worthy of your disciple?" "He's more straightforward?" Lu Qingxue shook her head and said, reckless. "If he steps into the martial arts world with such a temper, he will die without a burial place." "Haha, my apprentice is indeed inappropriate in dealing with your apprentice," Dongfang Xiao said, "but he will not be so unwise to others. He always has some brains." "That's true," Lu Qingxue said. "You're such a crafty person, your disciple won't be too honest. No matter what you say, I won't agree. Tell me, do you want to fight?" Sigh. Dongfang Xiao looked at Murong Chou. Murong Chou hurriedly said, "Master, this is my own matter, I can handle it." Dongfang Xiao said, "Well, you deal with it yourself first." Murong Chou heaved a sigh of relief. Dongfang Xiao smiled and said, "Miss Lu, we are old friends. Why don't you invite me into the mountain for a cup of tea?" "Let's go." Lu Qingxue scoffed. She could ignore Murong Chou as he was a junior after all, but Dongfang Xiao could not be too negligent. Qin Mengyun looked at Dongfang Xiao and then at Lu Qingxue, revealing a curious look. She felt that the relationship between Master and Dongfang Xiao was unusual. There might be some kind of friendship between them. She was very curious. Dongfang Xiao turned his head and looked at Murong Chou. "Young Chou, you can go back by yourself, right?" "Yes, Master." Murong Chou nodded. Dongfang Xiao smiled and entered the mountain with Lu Qingxue and Qin Mengyun, disappearing without a trace. Chu Li suddenly appeared beside Murong Chou and looked at the direction where they left. Murong Chou turned his head and saw him. He scoffed, "When did you come?" "I've been watching for a while." Chu Li shook his head and said, "It's really interesting. You're happy to see me make a fool of myself, aren't you?" Murong Chou said snappily, "Why didn't you come out earlier?" Chu Li said, "What's the point of me coming out?" "That's true." Murong Chou scoffed, "I can't even deal with her, let alone you." Chu Li asked, "Are your injuries serious?" As he spoke, he slapped his palm on Murong Chou's shoulder. A stream of inner energy drilled into Murong Chou's body. Immediately, Chu Li could see that Murong Chou's internal injuries were mostly healed. There was another stream of inner energy that was rapidly healing his injuries and expelling a stream of inner energy that was as gentle as water. Chu Li understood that this should be Dongfang Zhao's inner energy. The stream of inner energy that was being expelled was the swallow butterfly palm. As expected, it was extremely pure. These famous seniors should not be underestimated. They were all powerful figures. Murong Chou said, "Why are you looking for me?" "I'm here to visit Miss Qin. I didn't expect to encounter such a scene." "Interesting, interesting." Chu Li sighed. "I won't say much. It's good that you're here. I want to ask you about something." Murong Chou nodded. Wu Yuanxi's temperament suited him very well. He did not point fingers or poke his nose into other people's business. He did what he should and did not say much. Chu Li said, "Do you know who else cultivates the soul separation palm other than the Profound Heart sect?" "The soul separation palm?" Murong Chou thought for a while, The profound heart sect's unique martial arts. Chu Li looked disappointed. Looks like you don't know. Who said I don't know? Murong Cho was unconvinced. Even if I don't know, someone else will. Follow me. As he spoke, he pulled Chu Li's sleeve and the two of them suddenly disappeared. The next moment, the two of them appeared in front of a giant peak that was as steep as a sword. It was the location of the sword demon sect that Chu Li came to before. I don't know, but I have a senior brother, Feng Bo Gu. He is knowledgeable and knows everything. He will definitely tell you, Murong Cho said. Chu Li smiled. This is top secret information. It's the top secret of the profound heart sect. Don't worry. Nothing can be hidden from my senior brother Feng, Murong Cho said. The two of them chatted as they glided up the mountain. Two disciples in green appeared in a flash. When they saw Murong Cho, they quickly closed fists saluted, Senior Brother Murong. Murong Cho waved his hand and did not say a word. Chu Li nodded at the two of them and followed Murong Cho through a few forests in one go. There was a martial arts field in the forest. After passing through two continuous layers of palaces, they arrived at a small courtyard halfway up the mountain. Chu Li realized that the layout of the Sword Demon sect and the Flying Heaven sect were not too different. The top of the mountain was a palace while the waist of the mountain was filled with small courtyards. The continuous courtyards were about 100 meters apart and were surrounded by trees. The two of them arrived at a small courtyard. Murong Cho directly pushed the door open and entered. There was a middle-aged man reading a book. When he saw Murong Cho pushing the door open, he put down the book and said coldly, "Junior brother Murong, what brings you here?" Chu Li sized up the middle-aged man. He was handsome and had a thin figure. He did not look like he knew martial arts. However, there was a strange power in his body that was deeply hidden. If it was someone else, they would really overlook it and think that he did not know martial arts. In fact, he was still cultivating the heavenly demonic power. It was just that the heavenly demonic power was unusually concealed. Chapter 2093. If you don't believe me, then don't believe me, the middle-aged man, Feng Bogu, said coldly. His expression was ice-cold, pushing people 1,000 miles away, but Murong Cho ignored him and continued, "This won't do, I can't let others look down on you, senior brother Feng, so I brought him here to broaden his horizons. Tell me, what's the matter?" Feng Bogu pointed to the opposite side. Murong Cho sat down at the stone table, and Chu Li followed suit. Chu Li said, "I'm Wu Yuanxi. I have a huge grudge against the Profound Heart sect and am being hunted down. That's why I'd like to hear more about the Profound Heart sect. Although there are introductions in the sect, it's hard to tell if it's real or fake because the Profound Heart sect is cunning." Fake and real, real and fake. This is Profound Heart sect. Feng Boga said in a deep voice. No one knows if what they say is true or false. It is unfathomable. What do you want to know? I want to know what kind of powerful martial arts they have and if there's any way to counter them, Chu Li said. Feng Boga said, Mystic Heart sect's most powerful technique is the Linglong technique, followed by the heart-shattering palm, and of course, the sacred heart palm. Chu Li asked, I heard that there's also the soul separation palm? Yes, the departed soul palm can also be considered an ultimate skill of the sect, but it's a pity that it's difficult to practice and master, so there aren't many people who practice it, Feng Boga said. Those who aren't fully confident won't practice the departed soul palm. Chu Li muttered, Can we learn the soul separation palm? You want to learn the departed soul palm? Feng Boga looked him up and down, then shook his head and said, I'm not looking down on your Flying Heaven sect, but your heart technique is completely different from the Linglong tactics. You won't be able to learn the departed soul palm. Chu Li said disappointedly, Other than the Profound Heart sect, is there no one else who can cultivate the soul separation palm? Soul separation palm. Feng Bogu pondered for a moment, then stood up and paced with his hands behind his back. Chu Li looked at Murong Cho. Murong Cho waved his hand, indicating that they should not disturb Feng Bogu, and also stared at him. Feng Bogu seemed to be thinking, searching through the memories in his mind. After a long while, Feng Bogu said in a deep voice, "It is possible that the soul parting palm was passed on to outsiders." Chu Li perked up. He had always felt that Huang Heming's death was a little strange. It seemed like Profound Heart Sect was the one who killed him, and Profound Heart Sect might have wanted to kill him as well. If they encountered Huang Heming, they might not spare him. However, he felt that Huang Heming didn't die at the hands of Profound Heart Sect. He had a great enmity with the Profound Heart Sect, but he wanted to help them get off the hook. It was somewhat unreasonable. At the end of the day, he did not want the Flying Heaven sect to descend into chaos or even lose its power. Instead, he wanted to smoothly climb to a higher position in the Flying Heaven sect. Then, stirring up a storm would be as easy as lifting 1,000 caddies with little effort. Feng Bogu sat down, picked up the wine pot, poured himself a cup, and drank it in one gulp. A disciple of the Profound Heart sect left the sect and married a disciple of the Heavenly Wind sect. Since then, she has been living in seclusion within the sect and has never left the sect. This isn't something strange, right? Murong Cho laughed. Could it be that the Profound Heart sect disciple leaked the Profound Heart sect's martial arts? Impossible. This kind of marriage between sect disciples was not rare. In fact, it was very common. For example, 9th senior brother and 9th senior sister-in-law. 9th senior sister-in-law did not reveal any of the Dancing Butterfly sect's martial arts. Every disciple had to take a fiend god oath when they entered the sect, and they could not violate it. She died a long time ago, Feng Bogu said coldly. Died? Murong Cho was surprised. Could it be the Profound Heart sect's doing? Yes, Feng Bogu said. It was the Profound Heart sect who assassinated her. And then? Murong Cho said. Could it be that she leaked the Profound Heart sect's martial arts before she died? Do you think that's possible? Feng Bogu said. If you were assassinated by the sect, would you still protect the sect's martial arts before you died, or would you leak it out of anger? I don't know. Murong Cho shook his head. Feng Bogu said, You don't know this. As a woman, she is more vengeful. How could she not take revenge? Murong Cho slowly nodded. So, the Heavenly Wind sect also received the Profound Heart sect's inheritance? Even if they can't get all of it, they should have at least a part of it. But this is only a guess. No one can be sure. This is a secret among secret. Moreover, it's not a big deal. Not many people pay attention to it, Feng Bogu said. Murong Cho looked at Chu Li. Chu Li pondered. The Heavenly Wind sect. After he went back the last time, he deliberately looked for some books to read. He knew a lot of general knowledge. The Heavenly Wind sect was also one of the top sections. It was similar to the Flying Heaven sect, and the relationship between the two sects was not good. The Flying Heaven sect's light body technique was unique. Moreover, the Flying Heaven demon technique was agile and subtle. It was impossible to defend against it. The Heavenly Wind sect was also proficient in light body technique. Their martial arts relied on speed to achieve victory. They were as fast as a gust of wind. As the saying goes, those in the same trade are enemies. Because both sects sought speed, they were not convinced of each other's superiority. They wanted to suppress the other sect. Unfortunately, the martial arts of both sects were about the same. No one could suppress the other. Murong Cho said, Wu Yuanci, why do you want to know about the soul separation palm? Chu Li sighed. Feng Bogu said, Huang Heming from the Flying Heaven sect died from the soul separation palm? Chu Li raised his eyebrows and looked at Feng Bogu. Feng Bogu waved his hand. I originally knew that Huang Heming was killed. As for who killed him, I didn't know. It seems that it was most likely the Heavenly Wind sect? Chu Li sighed. It's really hard to say. Feng Bogu scoffed. The Heavenly Wind sect holds a deep grudge against you. If there's a chance to kill you, they won't let it go. Chu Li nodded slowly. Are you going to the Heavenly Wind sect? I'll go with you. I'll meet the Heavenly Wind sect, Murong Cho said. Then be careful. The Heavenly Wind sect is ruthless. They'll try to kill you, Feng Bogu said. Don't worry, senior brother. Murong Cho nodded. After the two left the courtyard, Chu Li said, Brother Murong, I'll return to the sect to report this news. Go. Murong Cho waved his hand. Don't forget to call me if you're going to the Heavenly Wind sect. Chu Li smiled. I'd like to see the sword technique of your sect. I'll be back soon. He fist saluted and fluttered away. He then teleported back to the Flying Heaven sect and entered the basilica to meet Zhao Lingfeng. Zhao Lingfeng was deep in thought in the basilica. He was as still as a statue. After he entered, Zhao Lingfeng only raised his head after a while. Chu Li fist saluted and told him about the news he received from Feng Bogu. Yuan Si, do you think it's the Heavenly Wind sect? Zhao Lingfeng frowned. Is it a provocation? Chu Li said, That's my intuition, but whether it's true or not, we'll have to investigate carefully. If that's the case, we really can't declare war. Zhao Lingfeng scoffed. The Heavenly Wind sect must be prepared and eyeing us. Chu Li said, Yes, I also think this is easy to investigate. We just need to see if they're preparing for war. We've neglected the Heavenly Wind sect recently. They're deliberately weakening their presence to make us relax. They must have planned this beforehand and seized this rare opportunity. Zhao Lingfeng said. Chu Li nodded slowly. The Heavenly Wind sect. I'll send someone to investigate, Zhao Lingfeng said. Chu Li fist saluted and was about to leave. Yuan Si, you're very good. Zhao Lingfeng nodded in satisfaction and sized him up. It's rare that you're so diligent, and it's even rarer that you're able to find such secret information. Chu Li looked embarrassed. I'm just lucky that the Sword Demon sect has Feng Bogu. This Feng Bogu is very famous, but people outside of the Sword Demon sect have only heard of his name but never seen him. Zhao Lingfeng smiled. This is also your opportunity. Chapter 2094. Chu Li frowned. Sect leader, how did Feng Bogu do this? He doesn't seem to have a strong cultivation level. He mastered the Wonderheart sword, Zhao Lingfeng said slowly. This sword technique was created by nature and can only be found by chance. The Wonderheart sword. Chu Li thought about it but did not have this memory. He had never heard of such a sword technique in the Demon Sword faction. Zhao Lingfeng said, As far as I know, the Wonderheart sword is not a direct martial art of the Demon Sword faction. It is a very obscure sword technique that was thrown in the corner of the Demon Sword faction's Sutra library. Because there is no way to cultivate it, almost no one has mastered it. I didn't expect him to finally master it. Chu Li smiled. This is a fortuitous encounter. Zhao Lingfeng nodded. A sword technique like the Wonderheart sword is not destined by fate. It is a fortuitous encounter. Ordinary people cannot master it, but if they do, it will have unimaginable power. Chu Li asked, Can he see through people's hearts? More or less. Zhao Lingfeng nodded. Candlelight Cave is quiet and there is no place for him to hide. That is why he knows many secrets that ordinary people do not. There is almost nothing that can be hidden from him. Chu Li frowned. That is too dangerous. Zhao Lingfeng shook his head. It is not that strong. He cannot see through those with high cultivation levels. He can only see through the hearts of those with low cultivation levels, so the threat is not that great. Chu Li sighed. With my cultivation level, he can't see through me, right? I can't. Zhao Lingfeng smiled. Feng Bogu's cultivation level is very low. He can see through those below second rate. He can't do anything to first-rate masters. Chu Li said, He can remember so many things. It is quite a skill. Retentive memory, Zhao Lingfeng said. Chu Li shook his head. No wonder he can master the Wonderheart sword. He is naturally intelligent, far more than ordinary people. There is no helping it. Zhao Lingfeng smiled. But there are good and bad things in everything. The Wonderheart sword also hinders his cultivation level. Chu Li nodded slowly. He then returned to the demon sword faction. When he arrived at the bottom of the mountain, he walked straight up. 2 disciples in green saw him and bowed. They did not stop him, knowing that he was Murong Chao's friend. He had just entered the sword demon sect when he was stopped by Murong Chou. Murong Chou suddenly came out from a training field in the forest and waved at him. Chu Li followed him to the training field and saw 3 youths in the middle of the field, slowly practicing their swordsmanship. Didn't you want to see our sect's sword technique? Murong Chou said. This is my senior brother Gu. He has the worship heaven sword. This is my senior brother Jiang. He has the heaven slaughtering sword. Do you want to exchange pointers? Chu Li's eyes lit up. Sure. The 2 youths looked ordinary, but the aura around them was monstrous. They stood there like 2 towering mountains. Those who were less courageous were scared stiff and couldn't move their hands and feet. Chu Li could tell that the 2 of them were deliberately releasing their auras to take him down a notch. He smiled and gave a fist salute. I'm Wu Yuanxi from the Flying Heaven sect. Greetings, senior brother Gu and senior brother Jiang. You're welcome. Gu Tianqi waved his hand and said calmly, You're junior brother Murong's good friend, so you're not an outsider. Let's exchange pointers. I also want to see the martial arts of the Flying Heaven sect. Junior brother Murong was proud, arrogant, and condescending, but he had a friend who was highly regarded by him. He ran up and down to ask Gu Tianqi and junior brother Jiang to exchange pointers with this friend, because this friend wanted to see the sword demon sect's swordsmanship. It was rare for junior brother Murong to have a friend that he liked, so they naturally couldn't drag him down and cause trouble. Moreover, they had heard of Wu Yuanxi's reputation as the Flying Heaven sect's top youth master. Such a person was worthy for them to fight. Jiang Zhenghua said, Wu Yuanxi, you're famous. We're curious too. I'll go first. As he spoke, he slowly drew his sword. The blade was snow-white and flawless. He said calmly, Heaven slaughtering sword. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. He didn't expect to see the heaven slaughtering sword right away. He gave a fist salute and said, Divine Demon Claw. The Flying Divine Demon technique contained the Flying Divine Demon Claw, which was extremely fast. When combined with the Flying Divine Demon technique, its power was even more shocking. Your claw technique can't withstand my swordsmanship. Jiang Zhenghua shook his head and laughed. My sword is very sharp. Come, Chu Li said in a low voice. His left hand was still a palm, but his right hand was already arched into the shape of an eagle's claw. Swoosh. As the sword whistled, Jiang Zhenghua's sword stabbed at Chu Li. His movement was slow and calm. It was not tainted with murderous intent or smoke. It was as if he was casually waving his sword. Chu Li's feet fluttered as he dodged the sword's force. He was quite familiar with this swordsmanship, so he broke it without hesitation. He wanted to see the difference between Jiang Zhenghua's heaven slaughtering sword and the one he cultivated. The first move didn't seem any different. Good. Jiang Zhenghua smiled. It was the first time someone could directly dodge the sword. It seemed easy and slow, but under the heaven slaughtering technique, the sword's force seemed light. The sword's force could shake one's will and spirit. No matter how slow one could not dodge it. Wu Yuanxi dodged it so easily. He did have some skills. Swoosh. The second move was waved. Chu Li stretched out his hand like a claw and gently pecked, accurately hitting the back of his sword. Jiang Zhenghua did not even have time to change his move and was easily hit. It was as if Chu Li had seen through his sword's force. It was a perfect move. He really could not believe that the heaven slaughtering sword was broken. Ding 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 ding. The next dozen moves were almost the same as the first one. Chu Li easily broke his sword forms. Chu Li's claws were either pecking or moving his fingers. His nails were extremely hard and forcefully blocked all his sword forms. These sword forms were all from the Heaven Slaughtering Sword. He was very familiar with it. It was no different from the Heaven Slaughtering Sword that he cultivated. He was a little confused. Could it be that the swordsmanship he obtained was complete? Why did it feel incomplete? Good. Jiang Zhenghua nodded slowly. Looks like I have to show some of my true skills. Be careful. Chu Li smiled and nodded. Jiang Zhenghua finally understood that Wu Yuanxi lived up to his name. He needed to give it his all. His sword form suddenly changed and became softer. The treasure sword seemed to be weightless. There was no aura when he swung it, but it was extremely fast. With a light swing, it arrived in an instant as if it had broken through the restraints of space. Chu Li was shocked. Could this be the real Heaven Slaughtering Sword? Ding! Chu Li waved his claw to deflect the tip of the sword. His whole body instantly went numb. The inner energy of the Heaven Slaughtering technique became like a high-speed rotating drill. It easily tore through the obstruction of the Flying Demon technique and went straight for his heart. He quickly used the Heavenly Demonic Spirit Devouring technique to absorb it. He cried out in surprise, "Good swordsmanship! Senior Jiang, this is also the Heaven Slaughtering Sword?" "This is the real Heaven Slaughtering Sword," Jiang Zhenghua said. "That was just a warm-up. Be careful," he said seriously. His movements became softer. The sword flashed and the tip of the sword had already pierced through the void and arrived in front of Chu Li's throat. It was too fast to dodge. Ding! Chu Li once again reached out to deflect the tip of the sword. Jiang Zhenghua was even more surprised. He did not expect Chu Li to react so quickly. What a good Flying Demon technique! Chu Li secretly sighed. If it was not for the Flying Demon technique, he really could not block this Heaven Slaughtering Sword. Just as he expected, the Heaven Slaughtering Sword was indeed mysterious. He had not learned it completely. Chapter 2095. Ding 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 ding. Chu Li's claws were as fast as lightning as he continuously parried one sword after another. However, his mind was imprinting every move clearly. He was not in a hurry to derive the Star Insight technique. It was also thanks to the Star Insight technique that he was able to parry one sword after another. Otherwise, he would not be able to block it with just the Flying Divine Demon technique. The Sky Regicide sword became faster and more unpredictable. It was impossible to defend against it. Ding! Murong Cho suddenly drew his sword and blocked Jiang Zhenghua's sword. "Brother Murong, what are you doing?" Jiang Zhenghua stared at him in dissatisfaction. "I'm having a good time. If you continue, Brother Jiang, you'll have to use your secret skill." Murong Cho said, "We're not mortal enemies. Don't use it." "You're siding with an outsider," Jiang Zhenghua said snappily. "Seeing that your friend is about to lose, you're trying to stop him. You're really bad. Move, I haven't had enough yet." "Brother Jiang, don't overdo it." Murong Cho waved his hand. Chu Li smiled. "Brother Jiang, I'm really not his opponent." Jiang Zhenghua scoffed. "Yuan-Si, you're very talented in swordsmanship. You shouldn't be training in fists and claws. You should be training in swordsmanship." Chu Li was extremely sensitive to sword techniques and his insight into swordsmanship was extraordinary. It was a very keen intuition. If not, he would not be able to restrain the Sky Regicide sword with just his technique. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. "Flying Heaven Faction's swordsmanship is nothing to my eyes." "That's true." Jiang Zhenghua shook his head and sighed. "What a pity. With your talent, if you were to learn swordsmanship, you wouldn't be inferior to me." "Brother Jiang, he's not inferior to you now," Murong Cho said. Jiang Zhenghua glared at him. "Get lost. I don't want to talk to you. Murong Cho smiled. You have your ultimate move. Elder Wu has his too. Chu Li said, then it's hard to say that I can beat Brother Jiang. Come on, hypocrite. Murong Cho glanced at him. Do you think I don't know what you're capable of? Chu Li chuckled and did not say anything else. Jiang Zhenghua shook his head and took a step back. With your talent, you really should practice the sword. Chu Li fist saluted and smiled without saying anything. Let me do it. Gu Tianqi smiled as he stepped forward and said, You're really itching for a move. Mine is the celestial sword. You can block the heaven regaining sword, but you might not be able to block the celestial sword. Please. Chu Li closed fist saluted solemnly. Through the previous exchange, he had memorized more than 30 moves of the Sky Regicide sword. It would be best if he could see the complete Sky Regicide sword. Unfortunately, this was almost impossible. The Sky Regicide sword was a secret sword technique of the Sword Demon sect. It would never be leaked to outsiders. Gu Tianqi drew his sword out of its sheath. Instantly, the sword light shone brightly like a scorching sun falling down, so dazzling that people could not open their eyes. Chu Li squinted his eyes. Under the observation of the omniscient mirror, he waved his hands as if he was playing a zither. Bang, 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 bang. Muffled sounds rang out incessantly. It didn't sound like fingers colliding with the tip of a sword. Instead, it sounded like fists striking leather. It was shocking and earth-shattering. Murong Cho and Jiang Zhenghua widened their eyes as they watched Chu Li retreat step by step under Gu Tianqi's sword, yet he was able to accurately deflect the tip of the sword. Gu Tianqi's sword technique was like a collapsing mountain. It pressed down from the sky and the earth. It was also like a landslide, unstoppable. Take this! Gu Tianqi shouted. He drew his sword out of its sheath and shot it towards Chu Li's back. A cold light flashed. Chu Li extended his hand to grab behind him. The long sword was in his hand. Suddenly, a cold light flashed. The long sword was light and elegant. It accurately pierced the tip of Gu Tianqi's sword. Both of them trembled. Ding, 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 ding. Their long swords clashed continuously. Jiang Zhenghua looked at Murong Cho in shock. Murong Cho also widened his eyes. The sword technique that Chu Li performed was exactly the one that Jiang Zhenghua performed earlier. It was light and elegant, but the sword force was strangely fast. It already had some essence. Jiang Zhenghua and Murong Cho's expressions changed slightly. Junior brother Murong, this friend of yours is amazing. Jiang Zhenghua shook his head and sighed. His expression was complicated as he stared at Chu Li's sword technique. Although there were some flaws and choppiness with the essence, the power had increased by 70 to 80%. Coupled with the body movement technique of the Flying Divine Demon technique, he was actually evenly matched with the Sky Regicide sword. Good! Murong Cho suddenly shouted. Gu Tianqi suddenly retreated and sheathed his long sword. He shook his head and sighed. Forget it, let's stop here. Chu Li revealed a look of longing. Senior brother Gu, the winner has not been decided yet. If you continue, you'll learn my Sky Regicide sword too. Gu Tianqi shook his head and said, Forget it, let's stop here. You're indeed a genius in sword technique cultivation. Chu Li revealed a bitter smile and shook his head. Only the form, it's hard to learn the heart technique. The sword technique of the Flying Heaven sect is really not good enough. Forget it, the power of the Flying Divine Demon Claw is enough. Claw techniques are different from sword techniques after all. Jiang Zhenghua sighed. With your aptitude, if you were a disciple of the Sword Demon sect, your achievements would probably be above junior brother Murong. What a pity! Chu Li smiled. The sword technique that I've learned now is enough to fool ordinary masters. You've seen Sky Regicide sword technique before? Jiang Zhenghua asked. Chu Li shook his head. First time. Then do you have a photographic memory? Jiang Zhenghua asked. Chu Li nodded. You're blessed by nature, just like senior brother Feng. Jiang Zhenghua sighed. But you're able to understand the essence of the sword technique in such a short period of time. Your comprehension is extraordinary, it's a kind of talent in sword technique. Chu Li smiled. I've also cultivated the flying divine demon technique very quickly. I've only cultivated it for a few days, but no matter how fast you learn martial arts, you still need to accumulate your skills over time. You might have an advantage in the beginning, but it's useless later on. That's true. Jiang Zhenghua nodded. Gu Tianqi said, What is it? This is an incredible talent. There are many martial arts that we can't cultivate, but he can. Just like senior brother Feng's Wonderheart sword, it's useless even if we cultivate it for 100 years. Jiang Zhenghua smiled and nodded. Murong Cho said, Elder Wu, how much of Sky Regicide's sword have you learned? I can remember everything I've seen just now. Chu Li smiled. And the Sky Regicide sword? You've learned the Sky Regicide sword too? Murong Cho said, You know more sword techniques than me. Chu Li said, Yes, but your Sky Regicide sword doesn't have any techniques, it's useless to learn. Murong Cho laughed proudly. Then practice a few techniques of the Sky Regicide sword, Jiang Zhenghua said. He still did not quite believe it. He suspected that Chu Li had seen the Sky Regicide sword before. Chu Li swung his sword, instantly the sword's light was dazzling, then the sword's force was torrential, covering the sky and covering the earth. It was unstoppable. Great sword technique! Gu Tianqi clapped his hands and praised. Chu Li did not only display the sword techniques, he also mastered the essence. It was truly amazing. If he did not see it with his own eyes, it would be hard to believe. Even senior brother Feng could not achieve this level. This was indeed an enviable talent. If he had this talent, he could see all the sword techniques in the world, then create his own. He would be able to stand above all heroes. No one in the world could resist him. Chu Li returned the sword to Jiang Zhenghua. Jiang Zhenghua looked at Chu Li with a complicated gaze. He had the same thoughts as Gu Tianqi. Murong Cho smiled. Senior brother Jiang, senior brother Gu. He's the future leader of the Flying Heaven faction. It's impossible for him to join our faction. Sigh. Gu Tianqi and Jiang Zhenghua shook their heads and sighed. It's better to learn some sword techniques, Jiang Zhenghua said. Jiang Zhenghua said, Our faction also has some sword technique secret manuals. It's mysterious and unpredictable. It's a pity that it's hard to learn. Maybe some of them are incomplete. You can try it. Chu Li said, That's not a good idea, is it? Let junior brother Murong show it to you, Jiang Zhenghua said. With your qualifications, it's such a waste if you don't learn sword techniques. Chapter 2096. If he had such aptitude, he could not only learn Sky Murder Sword, but also Sky Punishing Sword. Unfortunately, such aptitude could only be encountered and not sought. Chu Li sighed. This Sky Murder Sword is a little strange. Although the previous sword technique is exquisite, why is the power difference between the later sword technique and the previous one so huge? Jiang Zhenghua shook his head. This is the secret of Sky Murder Sword. It can't be leaked. Senior Jiang, why can't it be leaked? The Sky Murder Scripture can't be leaked anyway, so the sword technique doesn't matter. Murong Cho said disapprovingly, and it's not a great secret. The previous sword technique is used to perform secret technique. It has to be performed together with secret techniques, or else the power won't be enough. Then what about the later sword technique combined with secret techniques? Chu Li's heart skipped a beat, but his face showed doubt. Won't it be more powerful? Murong Cho said, The later sword technique doesn't need secret techniques. Junior brother Murong. Jiang Zhenghua stared at him sternly. All right, then I won't talk about it. Murong Cho curled his lips. Let's go. I'll choose an exquisite sword technique. If you can really master it, then we'll have more power against the Mystic Heart sect. Chu Li said, "No matter how good the sword technique is, it can't compare to my soaring divine demon technique." "Heh, then you overestimate your flying heaven sect," Murong Cho said disapprovingly. "I'll go find a sword technique that's more powerful than your soaring divine demon technique as long as you can master it." Chu Li raised his eyebrows. "I haven't met a martial art that I can't master." "Alright, then let's go," Murong Cho said. Chu Li fist saluted and bid farewell to Gu Tianqi and Jiang Zhenghua. Looking at Chu Li's disappearing figure, Jiang Zhenghua sighed and shook his head. "Junior brother Jiang, this is nothing." Gu Tianqi smiled. "Aptitude is important, but the key is still hard work. Also, seeing that he's with junior brother Murong, he's not a peaceful person. Who knows how long he'll live." Jiang Zhenghua smiled. "Senior brother Gu, you're too ruthless." "I'm not cursing you. Think about how many talented people there were in the heavenly demonic realm, how many of them could become great people. Even the heavens are jealous of geniuses." Gu Tianqi shook his head with a smile and said, "Even with senior brother Feng's aptitude, he didn't conceal his strength and bide his time after successfully cultivating the abstruse heart sword. All right, I'm just lamenting that I don't have such good luck." Jiang Zhenghua said, "Our fate is not good." "Is it bad luck to be able to enter the sword demon sect?" Gu Tianqi said, "You're too greedy." Jiang Zhenghua smiled and nodded. Chu Li and Murong Cho arrived at his courtyard. Murong Cho asked Chu Li to wait for a while and quickly left. Chu Li sat in Murong Cho's courtyard. Looking at the elegant courtyard and the winding garden, he realized that Murong Cho was really elegant on the inside. He looked reckless and overbearing on the outside, but in fact, he had a beautiful heart. He was someone who paid attention to enjoyment. When he thought of the heaven-killing sword, his heart was as calm as water. He knew that there was no need to pursue it anymore, and on the contrary, he gave up. The front part was used to perform the secret technique, so it was exquisite but not too powerful. This secret technique was obviously the heaven-killing incantation, and the real heaven-killing sword technique was at the back. However, to Chu Li, what he needed the most was the front part, and not the sword technique at the back. Although the power of the sword technique at the back was strong, it was far from the combination of the heaven-killing sword and the heaven-killing incantation. Knowing this, he was a little disappointed but also satisfied. He did not need to pursue it bitterly and stopped thinking about it. As for the sword technique that Murong Cho mentioned, he did not care much about it. How could a sword technique that was placed on the shelf be good? Even if it was exquisite, it had already been absorbed, and what was left was just leftovers. After a while, Murong Cho returned and took out a thin book and threw it on the stone table. "Take a look." Chu Li took it and glanced at it. He smiled and said, "Coalescence sword. How is it?" Murong Cho asked. Chu Li quickly flipped through it. There was only one sword technique. The style was very simple, but the heart technique was complicated. Moreover, it needed to be accumulated. The heart technique needed to be channeled for a while in advance to be able to condense all the power and momentum in the body into one sword, and then explode with an earth-shattering sword. The so-called coalescence sword was the unification of all sword technique. All the sword techniques in the world were in one sword. One sword encompassed all the sword technique. What a big talk! Chu Li raised his head and looked at Murong Cho. "Big talk, I'm afraid the power is ordinary. Everyone has practiced it before, but there are strong and weak powers, but none of them are as exaggerated as what he wrote. Coalescence sword? What a joke," Murong Cho said. "But I don't think anyone has practiced it correctly. You can give it a try." Chu Li said, "Senior brother Feng, have you practiced it before?" Of course senior brother Feng has practiced it before. Unfortunately, the power produced is also very ordinary. Murong Cho shook his head. What an inexplicable sword. Chu Li threw the secret book back to him and nodded. "I will practice it." Once I master it, I will demonstrate it for you. That's for the best, Morong Cho said. Let's see what you're really capable of, and whether your talent in swordsmanship is really that great. Shall we take a stroll outside again? That's what I was thinking. Chu Li smiled. The two hit it off and immediately left the Sword Demon sect, heading towards the Profound Heart sect. Along the way, the two did not meet the elders of the Profound Heart sect, nor did they meet the disciples of the Profound Heart sect. It was as if the Profound Heart sect was deliberately avoiding the two of them. This made Morong Cho very unhappy. He felt that the Profound Heart sect was up to something again. The two of them did not use their light body technique. They just walked slowly. Chu Li knew that even if the elders of the Profound Heart sect did not appear, they would definitely notice this side. By keeping an eye on this side, he could divert their attention so that they would not notice the strangeness of the Flying Heaven sect. Chu Li took the opportunity to understand the customs and practices of the heavenly demonic realm. It was also a rare opportunity to comprehend the coalescence sword along the way. The Heavenly Star Insight had been deducing this move. The profoundness of this move was not only in the heart technique, but also the perfect combination of the heart technique and posture. Everyone's body was different, so the same move would have different powers. This move needed to be adjusted according to one's own body. Without a profound cultivation in swordsmanship, it was difficult to comprehend the combination of the sword and the person, the relationship between the sword and the person, and how to best coordinate and unleash the strongest power. Therefore, it was not too exaggerated to call it the coalescence sword. This move was a move that reduced the brilliance of the swordsmanship to a plain one. Through deducing and comprehending this move, Chu Li's understanding of swordsmanship deepened. His original swordsmanship also unknowingly improved. As the sun set, the two of them arrived at a small town. They entered the best restaurant in the town and found a seat by the window. Morong Cho ordered 2 jars of the best wine. After drinking a few cups in one go, he let out a long sigh and slammed the table. So boring. Chu Li was multitasking. His Heavenly Star Insight had been deducing the coalescence sword. He looked normal on the outside. He smiled. It's really boring. It seems like the Profound Heart sect is ignoring me. That's strange, Morong Cho said. You're swaggering around and they actually let you go? Chu Li said, maybe they're accumulating their strength for a strike to kill. We still have to be careful. It's not a good idea to always be so cautious. We have to take the initiative. Morong Cho scoffed and filled their cups again. Suddenly, they heard a few discussions. I didn't expect the Heavenly Wind sect and the Profound Heart sect to fight. It seems like the Profound Heart sect started it. Why would the Profound Heart sect do this? Chapter 2097. Morong Cho's eyes widened and he turned to look at Chu Li. Chu Li shook his head. I don't know. No wonder they had to deal with us. Did they go against the Sky Wind sect? Morong Cho laughed. How impressive. They provoked the Sky Wind sect and now they provoked the Sky Wind sect. What are they trying to do? Chu Li had already guessed it. He was impressed by the sect leader's methods. Maybe they think that the Profound Heart sect is strong enough, so they're starting to pay attention to their prestige? Chu Li said. Or maybe it's a misunderstanding that will be cleared up soon. Once the Profound Heart sect makes a move, they always think carefully. Morong Cho said. I know these people the best. They only care about benefits and not emotions. They will never act impulsively. Chu Li said, then maybe there's something we don't know. This is interesting. Shall we join in? Morong Cho said. Let's see how big the fight between the Sky Wind sect and the Profound Heart sect is. Chu Li said, it's already too late, right? He thought of many things in an instant. He speculated that Zhao Lingfeng had passed the news of Huang Heming's death to the soul-separating palm to the Profound Heart sect. He then vaguely mentioned the Sky Wind sect. With the Profound Heart sect's intelligence, they would know if they were framed or not. If the Sky Wind sect really framed them, the Profound Heart sect would definitely not suffer. If they did not want the two sects to fight, they would have to deal with the Sky Wind sect. The Sky Wind sect and the Sky Wind sect had a deep grudge. They would definitely not let go of this opportunity. Thus, the two sects joined forces to deal with the Sky Wind sect. Even if Huang Hemming was really done by the Profound Heart sect, the Sky Wind sect would pretend not to know and take the opportunity to deal with the Sky Wind sect. Such methods were worthy of the sect leader. Chu Li was secretly impressed. These two brothers. Murong Cho stood up and strode to a table. He closed fist, saluted the two young men and laughed. I am Murong Cho from the Sword Demon sect. Master Murong. The two quickly stood up and closed fist saluted. Murong Cho's name was like thunder piercing their ears. They did not dare to slight him and hurriedly said with a smile, It's an honor to meet you. Come, come. I always like making friends. How about we sit and talk? Murong Cho said politely. This made the two of them feel extremely flattered. Murong Cho's temper was as famous as his swordsmanship. He was famous for being rude, overbearing, and unscrupulous. The two of them believed that, if they refused, Murong Cho would definitely become hostile and even beat them up. In that case, we'll do as you say, the two of them replied with a smile. Murong Cho brought the two of them to sit in front of Chu Li and pointed at him. This is Wu Yuanxi from the Flying Heaven sect. Chu Li gave a fist salute and smiled. I haven't asked for your names yet. Li Jianxiu, Wu Zongqing. The two of them cupped their fists and reported their names. Chu Li smiled and said, Young Hero Li, Young Hero Wu, we heard earlier that the disciples of the Profound Heart sect and the Sky Wind sect had a conflict? Exactly. The two of them became spirited as they knew why they were called over. They immediately relaxed and smiled. Two disciples from the Profound Heart sect killed a disciple from the Heavenly Wind sect. He's dead? Chu Li was surprised. There was no way to turn the situation around. The Profound Heart sect was ruthless and left no way out. They were very determined. The two of them nodded slowly. We saw it with our own eyes. It was outside the forest, outside the town. After the two disciples from the Profound Heart sect killed the disciple, they did not hide it at all. We were not the only ones who saw it, there were many others. Chu Li asked, What did they say? The disciples from the Profound Heart sect seemed to say something about the disciple from the Sky Wind sect being despicable and putting the blame on others. Chu Li nodded slowly. It seemed that the Profound Heart sect was making their stance clear to the Flying Heaven sect. It was also a sign of allegiance. They wanted to stand on the side of the Flying Heaven sect against the Sky Wind sect. The relationship between sects was like this. Benefits were the foundation and emotions were put aside. Sigh. That's it? Murong Cho shook his head. It's too fast. Who died? Chen Qiming from the Sky Wind sect. Chen Qiming. Murong Cho frowned. He's a master. Now that Chen Qiming is dead, the Sky Wind sect will be furious. They will definitely seek revenge on the Profound Heart sect. Elder Wu, your Flying Heaven sect can watch the show. Everyone knew about the grudge between the Flying Heaven sect and the Sky Wind sect. If the Sky Wind sect was unlucky, the Flying Heaven sect would only clap their hands in joy. Can the Flying Heaven sect and the Sky Wind sect join forces to deal with the Profound Heart sect? Murong Cho asked. That's not a bad idea. Let's destroy the Profound Heart sect and then decide who's better. Chu Li laughed. How can it be that easy to destroy a sect? Forget about the Flying Heaven sect and the Sky Wind sect. Even if the Sword Demon sect were to join forces, they still wouldn't be able to destroy the Profound Heart sect. What about the Dancing Butterfly sect? Murong Cho asked. You have a good relationship with the Dancing Butterfly sect, right? Chu Li shook his head. It's just a nodding acquaintance. The Sky Wind sect will never let this go. They will definitely seek revenge. We still have a good show to watch. It's a pity that we won't be able to see the disciples of the profound heart sect. Li Jianxiu and Wu Zongqing sat for a while. When they saw that Murong Chou and Chu Li were done talking, they quickly stood up and left. After they left, Murong Chou felt that it was boring. So, he immediately said goodbye to Chu Li. Chu Li also returned to the Flying Heaven sect. He had gained a lot from this trip. He already had some understanding of the coalescence sword. He would be able to master it in a few more days. With this sword technique, he would be able to unleash great power during normal times without having to suppress his own cultivation level. Moreover, this sword technique would be able to be used even when he returned to the Grandmaster's boundary. As soon as he returned to the sect, he felt deserted. The huge Flying Heaven sect seemed to have very few people. It was cold and deserted. The martial arts field that was originally bustling with noise could not be seen. The buildings were also almost empty. He immediately returned to his courtyard. As soon as he sat down, he used the omniscient mirror to observe his surroundings to see who was still in the sect. Hu Tianlai pushed the door open and entered. Masters Jr. Chu Li stood up and fist saluted. Hu Tianlai waved his hand and sat opposite him. He sighed. Yuan Si, get ready. The war is about to begin. Chu Li hurriedly asked, with whom? The Sky Wind sect. Hu Tianlai said. It could also be the Profound Heart sect. Both sects are enemies. Chu Li asked, sect leader, have you found out? Yes. Hu Tianlai sighed. There's someone from the Sky Wind sect who cultivates the soul separation palm. His name is Chen Qiming. He was the one who did it. Chu Li frowned. Was it really him? Most likely. Hu Tianlai sighed. I didn't expect the Sky Wind sect to be so powerful. Chu Li slowly nodded. If Chen Qiming did not die, he could still personally investigate. However, Chen Qiming was killed by the Profound Heart sect. It was too much of a coincidence. Could it be that they wanted to silence him so that there would be no evidence? In fact, it was the Profound Heart sect who did it. Instead, they shifted the blame to the Sky Wind sect. Did they predict that the Flying Heaven sect would take the opportunity to deal with the Sky Wind sect? Also, if it was really Chen Qiming who did it, why did the Sky Wind sect let Chen Qiming leave the sect? If the Sky Wind sect let Chen Qiming leave the sect on purpose, then he had to be careful. It was very likely that the Sky Wind sect and the Profound Heart sect had joined forces. The heavenly demonic power could change one's appearance. It was not difficult to find someone to impersonate Chen Qiming. Even if one's appearance would be restored after death, he could find someone who looked similar to Chen Qiming. Chu Li's mind spun rapidly as he thought of various possibilities. It was as if a dense fog was blocking his vision. Chapter 2098. Yuan Si, don't leave the sect for a while, Hu Tianlai said. Don't participate in the upcoming battle either. Chu Li frowned. Am I supposed to watch from the sidelines? You're still young. Us old guys will be enough. Hu Tianlai said, let's try to get rid of the Tianfeng sect in one fell swoop. I still have to be careful of the Profound Heart sect. Chu Li said, whether they will ally with us or with the Tianfeng sect, who can tell? This is a big problem. Hu Tianlai nodded slowly. We have to be on guard. The Profound Heart sect could do such a thing. On the surface, it looked like they were allying with the Flying Heaven sect, but they were even secretly allying with the Heavenly Wind sect. In any case, it was impossible for the Flying Heaven sect and the Heavenly Wind sect to ally together, so the Profound Heart sect was more than capable. No matter how smart Chu Li was, he still felt like he was in a fog. He could not see his surroundings or what was in front of him. However, he decided to make use of this opportunity to make a great contribution and strive to enter the upper echelons of the Flying Heaven sect as soon as possible so that he could influence the decisions of the Flying Heaven sect and the entire Sky Demon realm. Chu Li said, Masters Jr., I can't just sit and watch. all young disciples are to return to the hermit peaks and are not allowed to participate in this matter. Hu Tianlai said, "This is the decision of the sect leader and the elders. Yuan Si, although your martial arts are strong, it's not the right time yet. There will be battles like this in the future." Chu Li shook his head. "It's better to stay in the hermit peaks. As long as I change my appearance, no one will be able to recognize me. It's more convenient to stay in the hermit peaks, and I won't be able to attack in time." "But this is the sect master's order," Hu Tianlai said. Chu Li smiled and said, "Then, Masters Junior, please help me keep it a secret." "You?" Hu Tianlai shook his head and smiled. It was true that the other disciples had to return to the hermit peaks and couldn't participate in this kind of thing. But Wu Yuanxi was different from the other young disciples. His cultivation was strong enough, and he wasn't inferior to the elders. He only lost in experience. Chu Li said, "After I get out of here, I'll hide my whereabouts and not let anyone discover me. I can join in at the crucial moment. It might be useful." "That's true." Hu Tianlai gently nodded and said, "I'll talk to the sovereign. If the sovereign really objects, you'll have to obediently go to the hermit peak. The hermit peaks are truly safe there." Chu Li responded with a fist salute. Hu Tianlai left and went to the main palace to see Zhao Lingfeng. Zhao Lingfeng was deep in thought in the hall. When Hu Tianlai came in, he waved his hand and gestured for him to sit down and talk. Hu Tianlai told Zhao Lingfeng what he had told Chu Li. Zhao Lingfeng nodded lightly. "The profound heart sect. Indeed, we must guard against them. Ever since Yuan Si went to the Grand Master's realm, he's really different. It's as if he's been enlightened." Hu Tianlai laughed. "Not only has his martial arts improved, but his intelligence has also improved." Zhao Lingfeng nodded lightly. "He has been sharpened, and the light is getting brighter and brighter. We need to be careful not to get harmed. With the void-breaching bead and his quick-wittedness, it won't be easy to harm him," Hu Tianlai said with a smile. Zhao Lingfeng said, "All right, we'll do as he says." Hu Tianlai cupped his fists and left. Chu Li sat on the crown of an ancient tree, his body covered by the surrounding leaves. Coupled with the life and death scripture's ability to conceal his presence, no one would be able to detect his presence. It was as if he had become one with the tree. He used the omniscient mirror to observe the towering mountain in front of him. The towering mountain pierced through the sky and pierced through the clouds. The mountainside was covered by the white clouds, and the peak could not be seen. He stood in the forest at the foot of the mountain, and could only see the lush ancient trees on the mountain. The majestic atmosphere made him feel as small as an ant. There was nothing special about this mountain. The sects he had seen were all like this. He hid in the crown of this ancient tree for 2 days, and did not move at all. It was as if he had become a part of the tree, a branch. The sect where this mountain was located was the Tianfeng sect. The sun was setting, and it was almost dusk. Chu Li still did not move. The next day was about to pass. Suddenly, he opened his eyes and saw a young man walking out of the mountain. The young man was dressed in a dark blue robe, and his long sleeves fluttered in the wind. He looked like a scholar, not a martial arts master. His cultivation level was not too high, but he could not see through the young man's mind. It was obvious that the young man did not have a higher cultivation level, but he had a treasure on him. He was the prey that Chu Li had been waiting for. The young man in the blue robe glided over to the forest where Chu Li was. Chu Li suddenly appeared behind him in a flash, and reached out to seal all the acupuncture points on his body. Then, he silently caught him and disappeared from the spot. The next moment, he appeared in a cave 100 miles away. First, he took off a purple bead that the young man was wearing around his neck. It was round and flawless, as big as a longan fruit, emitting a faint luster. He placed it on his palm and felt an invisible force spreading out, blocking his senses. This was the bead that could block others from prying. It was indeed extraordinary. He wore it on his neck, and then opened the young man's acupuncture point. At this moment, he had already turned into the appearance of an elder of the Profound Heart sect. "Who are you?" The young man turned around and glared at him. His body was light and agile, and he placed his palms in front of his chest. He stared at Chu Li with caution. "What do you want?" Chu Li said, "Tell me your name." Deng Sun from the Tianfeng sect." The young man said coldly, "Since you dare to make a move in front of our sect, you must not be a nobody. Do you dare to tell me your name?" Chu Li shook his head. "I'm afraid of the Sky Wind sect, so I won't tell you my name. I want to hear something." "What is it?" scoffed the young man, Deng Sun. Chu Li said, "Is Chen Qiming from your sect here?" "Brother Chen?" Deng Sun frowned. "Why are you looking for Brother Chen?" "I heard that he's dead." Chu Li said, "I found it strange that he was killed by the Profound Heart sect." "Who said that Brother Chen is dead?" Deng Sun shook his head. "How can the Profound Heart sect kill Brother Chen?" "He's not dead." Chu Li asked. Deng Sun shook his head. "Brother Chen is alive and well." Chu Li laughed. "Are you trying to fool me?" As he spoke, he slapped Deng Sun fiercely. His movement was fast, and his palm technique was gentle. Deng Sun scoffed and dodged. His body movement technique was even faster. Chu Li nodded in satisfaction. Deng Sun was indeed a disciple of the Sky Wind sect. Although his cultivation level was not high, his body movement technique was extremely fast. Chu Li urged his palm technique to force Deng Sun to use his body movement technique while observing Deng Sun's channeling route. From Deng Sun's mind, he saw that Chen Qiming was not dead. He even saw him before he left the mountain. When he saw this, he felt that something was wrong. It was possible that it was as he expected. The Sky Wind sect and the Profound Heart sect had secretly joined hands. Of course, it was also possible that his guess was too serious. There must be an inside story. The Profound Heart sect could not be trusted, but the Sky Wind sect should not be underestimated. Chu Li scoffed. "Your body movement technique is too weak. How can you be considered a disciple of the Sky Wind sect?" "Humph!" Deng Sun gritted his teeth. His face suddenly turned pale. He then turned into a wisp of smoke and swept past Chu Li. He wanted to escape from the cave. Chu Li shook his head. In a flash, he appeared at the entrance of the cave. He blocked Deng Sun's way and forced him to use his martial arts. Not only did the Sky Wind sect have light body technique, but their palm and fist techniques were also unique. Their moves were extremely fast and hard to defend against. Deng Sun punched and fought with Chu Li for a while. Chu Li kept asking him about his friends, where he usually trained, who were his seniors, who were close to his brothers, and what he liked to eat. Along the way, he met two young men who were walking hurriedly with cold expressions. Chu Li quickly searched his mind for the faces of the two men, and quickly bowed. "Senior Brother Qi, Senior Brother Lu." The two of them waved their hands and ignored him, hurrying down the mountain. Chu Li let out a sigh of relief and slowly returned to his courtyard. He sat down and immediately used the omniscient mirror to observe the entire Tianfeng sect. A few of the palaces could not be broken through, but the rest of the place could be seen clearly. Moreover, most of the disciples could see clearly in their mind. In the Tianfeng sect, their guard was extremely low. Even if they had treasures to protect themselves, they did not need to use them. Chu Li sighed. His cultivation level was still not strong enough. Otherwise, he would be able to see through everyone's minds. Now, he could see through 70 to 80% of them, but he could not see through the minds of the important people. The more he needed to see through, the more he could not see through them. This was because his cultivation level was not high enough. If his cultivation level was higher than theirs, everything would be exposed, and there would be no need for him to work so hard. Therefore, it was still better to cultivate. He quickly put these thoughts aside, and went to find Chen Qiming. Chen Qiming was 200 meters away from his courtyard, which was considered close. His own courtyard was very remote, far away from the central path. Even though they were from the Tianfeng sect and had extremely fast body movement techniques, it was still inconvenient. The location of the courtyard showed the status of the disciples in the sect. The disciples' courtyards were built in rows along the mountainside, with the central mountain road as the center, spreading out to both sides. The more central the courtyard, the higher it was, the higher the status. The lower the courtyard, the more remote it was, the lower the status. This was also a form of hierarchy, to encourage the disciples to work hard and improve their status. Chen Qiming's courtyard was 2 floors higher than his, but it was almost the same distance from the central location. Obviously, his status was not high. Because of his background, he was still ostracized and guarded, and it was difficult for him to enter the higher ranks. Chu Li deduced, shaking his head as he looked at Chen Qiming. Chen Qiming's appearance was ordinary, and he would not stand out in a crowd. He was thin and tall, with a serious expression. It was obvious that he was a strict person. He was already in his 30s and was slowly cultivating. Chu Li frowned and sat down. Chen Qiming's cultivation level was not low, but he could not see through his thoughts because he had a treasure on him. Even in the sect, he always carried a treasure with him, and there was no chance to take advantage of him. Obviously, he was also wary of the sect. Chu Li stood up and paced with his hands behind his back. Since Chen Qiming was still alive, there was no point in getting entangled with him. What he needed to find out was what the secret plan of the Abstruse Heart sect and Tianfeng sect was, and how to deal with the Flying Sky sect. In fact, he did not need to guess to know that it was nothing more than a collaboration. First, Abstruse Heart sect would get close to the Flying Sky sect, and then when the two sects were dealing with the Tianfeng sect, they would suddenly change side. Even if the Flying Sky sect was prepared, they would not be able to withstand the joint attack of the two sections. Only by luring the snake out of its hole could they seriously damage the Flying Sky sect. Otherwise, it would be almost impossible for the two sects to directly attack the mountain gate of the Flying Sky sect. The sect protection formation was too powerful. If that was the case, then he had to destroy the alliance between the two sections. When he thought of this, he calmed down. The omniscient mirror was still covering the entire Tianfeng sect. It was a rare opportunity to see the actual situation of the Tianfeng sect, and the young disciples were indeed not as good as the Flying Sky sect. If there were no accidents, in 100 years, the Flying Sky sect would be able to suppress the Tianfeng sect, and the two sects would not be on the same level. Chu Li suddenly raised his eyebrows. A burly young man in black clothes came out of the main hall and walked down lightly. The young disciples who came and went looked at him, but no one greeted him. Obviously, they did not know him. Chu Li smiled and walked out of the courtyard. He quickened his pace and walked through the forest, taking a shortcut. When he walked out of the forest and reached the main road, he saw the young man in black clothes approaching him. Chu Li suddenly moved sideways and crashed into the burly young man. It was so sudden and fast that it was impossible to guard against it. The burly young man frowned and floated to dodge, but he did not make it in time. He was hit by Chu Li and almost fell. Chu Li stared coldly at the burly young man. The burly young man stared back at him, and his heart trembled. Could it be that the Tianfeng sect was up to something again? Chu Li snorted and continued to walk forward, ignoring him. The burly young man was furious, but he suppressed it. This was not the place to cause trouble. If it was somewhere else, he would teach Chu Li a lesson. He quickened his pace and hurriedly left the Tianfeng sect. He changed his appearance again and turned into a middle-aged man. His inner energy was slow and faint, and he looked ordinary and unnoticeable. He went into the forest and floated in a place where there was no one around. As he floated, He would suddenly change direction, or suddenly speed up or suddenly slow down to check if there was someone following him. Chu Li followed from afar and shook his head. As expected of a disciple of the mystic heart sect, he was cautious and suspicious. Chapter 2100. He appeared in front of the burly young man in a flash. He had turned into a skinny middle-aged man and frowned. "What are you doing?" Chu Li chuckled and shook his head. "Which one of you from Profound Heart Sect? Tell me your name." "What Profound Heart Sect? Are you a disciple of Sky Wind Sect?" the burly young man asked. "I am a disciple of Sword Demon Sect." "Impossible. Why would someone from Sword Demon Sect go to Sky Wind Sect?" the burly young man said coldly. Chu Li shook his head. "You don't need to know too much. I want to ask you, is Profound Heart Sect allied with Sky Wind Sect?" "Don't talk nonsense," the burly young man yelled. Chu Li nodded. "Looks like I was right. As expected of Profound Heart Sect. What's real and what's fake? Aren't you afraid of offending someone you shouldn't offend?" "Who's the person I shouldn't offend?" "You?" the burly young man sneered. Chu Li sighed. "I can only send you to heaven today." As he finished, he pulled out a short sword from his sleeve and shook it gently. "Take this." With a soft whistle, the light of the sword was as light as a swallow. It drew an arc and slashed the burly young man's neck. The burly young man could not resist at all. He could only watch as the short sword slid across his neck. He could not avoid it. An invisible force bound him. His senses became sharp, but his movements became slow. Bang! A muffled sound was heard. The short sword in Chu Li's hand suddenly shattered into pieces. The surrounding trees were blown into pieces. The towering old tree was blown into powder by a small piece and fell down. In the blink of an eye, there were less than 5 trees left within 10 meters of the two. Chu Li shook his head helplessly. The heaven-killing scripture really needed the heaven-killing sword. A normal treasure sword could not withstand the power of the heaven-killing scripture. Fortunately, the sword was fast enough. Otherwise, it would have collapsed before it could kill. He turned and glided away. He did not return to Sky Wind Sect. Instead, he stood guard at a distance and observed with the omniscient mirror to see if there were any Profound Heart Sect disciples coming. On the 3rd day, another disciple from the Mystic Heart Sect came to the Tianfeng Sect. Before he could reach the Tianfeng Sect, he was killed by Chu Li with the Worship Heaven sword. On the 6th day, another Mystic Heart Sect elder came to the Tianfeng Sect, but he was still killed by Chu Li with the Sky-Killing sword, unable to reach the Tianfeng Sect. On the evening of the 7th day, Chu Li saw the 6 elders from Profound Heart Sect approaching. He frowned and looked at the long swords stuck in the trees around him. There were a total of 10 long swords. The cultivation of these old men was not inferior to his. If he really wanted to fight them head-on, he would have to risk his life. Should he risk his life? After thinking about it, he immediately decided to give it a try. After this, he would be able to achieve his goal. He appeared with a long sword on his waist and another in his hand. When he got close, he didn't say anything and didn't wait for the 6 elders to get into formation. He had already activated the heaven-murdering incantation. The long sword silently slashed an elder's throat, then another elder's. When it slashed the 2nd elder, there was a muffled bang, and the fragments of the long sword shot out in all directions. The other 4 elders only felt their bodies relax, and they immediately regained control of their bodies. Before they had time to be happy, the fragments had already arrived, and they couldn't dodge in time. Some used palms, some punched, but they couldn't block the fragment. The fragments pierced through their bodies without any obstruction, and the protective vital energy was also useless. Suddenly, blood gushed out uncontrollably, and the ground was dyed red. When these fragments passed through their bodies, they also exploded with a tyrannical force, causing serious damage to their internal organs. They almost lost the ability to fight, and this surprised Chu Li. The power of these fragments was so great. Although it was inferior to the heaven-murdering incantation, it had other uses. The heaven-murdering incantation could kill people directly, but it could only kill 1 or 2 people at a time. The long sword couldn't withstand it, and the power of this collapse could seriously injure a few people. Chu Li pulled out the long sword from his waist, and was about to perform the second sword. "Let's go." The remaining 4 elders looked at each other and said in a low voice. They were all stained with blood, and their clothes were bright red, but their eyes were bright. Not only did they not look weak, but they were also full of energy. The aura around them was monstrous, like a raging wave. Chu Li saw that the situation was not good, and just as he was about to shift, boom! 4 explosions sounded almost at the same time, and the 4 elders instantly turned into 4 clouds of blood mist, shrouding a radius of 10 feet. The 4 clouds of blood mist overlapped, and it was almost impossible to see anything in the area. When the blood mist settled and disappeared, everything was bare. Within a radius of 10 feet, not even a blade of grass grew. The ground seemed to have been scraped, and it was clean. The soil seemed to have been refurbished, and the original towering old trees had disappeared completely. Chu Li was embedded in an old tree 10 feet away, motionless, and his face was as pale as a sheet. He was almost unconscious, but he still had a trace of consciousness left, and he knew that his situation was not good. He did not expect these 4 people to be so terrifying. They did not struggle at all, and directly performed the heavenly demonic disintegration secret skill. The power was shocking, and it was even more powerful than a great Asura's self-destruction. He only felt that his body was empty, and all of his inner energy was gone. His internal organs were shattered, and he died on his last breath. Now, even if an innate master came, he could only wait for death. The spiritual energy around him surged, and wanted to repair his body, but the remaining invisible force in his body was expelling the spiritual energy. It could not get close to him, and he could not repair himself. Instead, his injuries were aggravated by this invisible force, and they kept getting worse. He showed a trace of regret. If this went on, he would really die once, and he could only use the life and death scripture. Footsteps sounded, and he squinted his eyes, unable to see, and unable to move. Fortunately, he could still use the omniscient mirror, but the range was only 10 feet, and he saw a young man walking over. This young man was tall, and full of heroic spirit. His long narrow eyes and thin lips showed that he was not a generous person. He squinted his eyes to size Chu Li up, and then clapped his hands and praised, "Amazing, I admire you." Chu Li was secretly puzzled. Why did this guy seem to have seen the previous scene? Under the observation of the omniscient mirror, there was no place for him to hide, so how could he hide from him? The young man chuckled. "Let me introduce myself. I'm Pring Chenghua, a disciple of the Tianfeng sect." Chu Li's heart skipped a beat, and he knew his identity. This Pring Chenghua was an outstanding young disciple of the Tianfeng sect, just like himself and the Flying Heaven sect. They were both future hopes and future leaders. He did not see him at the Tianfeng sect before, so he must have gone out, and now coincidentally appeared here. Ping Chenghua smiled. "Which sect are you a disciple of?" Chu Li struggled to open his eyes, and did not speak. "The Sword Demon sect?" Ping Chenghua shook his head. "The disciples of the Sword Demon sect are indeed powerful, but it's a pity. Why don't you hand over a sword technique from the Sword Demon sect in exchange for your life? How about that?" Chu Li closed his eyes. "Seems like you don't agree." Ping Chenghua sighed. "You're loyal to your sect, so I can only send you to heaven." He took a step forward and smiled. "Dying like this, don't you think it's a pity?" Chapter 2101. Chu Li strenuously asked, "What sword technique do you want?" "What sword technique did you use just now?" Peng Chenghua asked. "Its power is astonishing." Chu Li said, "Coalescence sword technique." "Coalescence sword technique?" Peng Chenghua frowned and scoffed. "Don't try to fool me. There is no such sword technique. Not the heavenly sword, the heaven-killing sword, or the heaven-punishing sword." Chu Li shook his head strenuously. His movements were so subtle that he could not even shake his head. He sighed and said, "I didn't manage to cultivate these sword techniques. I only managed to cultivate this obscure sword technique." Coalescence sword technique. Peng Chenghua slowly nodded and said, "Where did this sword technique come from?" Chu Li said, "There are many people who practice it in the sutra library in the sect, but I'm the only one who can achieve such power. Even if you want to learn it, you might not be able to unleash such power." "You're trying to fool me, aren't you?" Peng Chenghua approached Chu Li, picked up the long sword, and slowly pressed it against Chu Li's throat. Chu Li was embedded in the tree, coincidentally at the same height as Peng Chenghua. It was as if the two of them were talking while standing opposite each other. Chu Li sighed. "I've already come this far. There's no doubt that I'll die. You won't be able to save me even if you have spirit pills." "Huh!" Peng Chenghua could already feel that Chu Li's breath was weak, and it did not seem like he was faking it. Moreover, he could tell that Chu Li's injuries were severe when he saw that blood was gushing out of his mouth. Thus, Peng Chenghua placed his hand on Chu Li's wrist. A stream of inner force immediately entered his body and collided with the power that was destroying his internal organs. Then, it disappeared. Peng Chenghua's expression changed slightly. He slowly nodded and said, "You are indeed very unlucky. The might of those four's sky demon disintegration technique is astonishing. You will definitely die. What other wishes do you have before you die?" Peng Chenghua had already determined that Chu Li would definitely die. Even if one consumed a spirit core, it would be expelled by this force. Even if one could avoid this force, the recovery rate of the spirit core wouldn't be as fast as it was destroyed. Their injuries would only worsen until they died. "What do you want to do before you die?" Peng Chenghua asked. "I can help you achieve it. How about you give me the coalescence sword technique?" Chu Li shook his head. "The coalescence sword is a sword technique of the sect. It cannot be taught to outsiders." "All right then, I'll send you on your way so that you can reincarnate as soon as possible." Peng Chenghua nodded, and the tip of the sword pierced forward again. It had already entered his throat, and fresh blood flowed down the blade. Chu Li wanted to shrink back, but unfortunately, there was a big tree behind him. There was nowhere for him to go. He showed a bitter expression. "Why is Master Peng so cruel? I'm a person who's about to die. I can't live anymore, so how can I hand over the sword art? I won't be able to face the seniors of the sect after I die. If I die, then so be it. What's there to fear?" He was guiding Peng Chenghua to not destroy his own body so that he could come back to life. Otherwise, if Peng Chenghua were to dismember his body in a fit of rage, or even split it into pieces, even the life and death scripture would not be able to revive him. "If you don't hand it over, then suffer a little more before you die," Peng Chenghua said. "I will think of a way to save you so that you won't die for the time being. You can suffer a little before you die. What do you think?" Chu Li frowned and asked, "Does Master Peng really want to go to such extremes?" Peng Chenghua said, "I don't care. I just want the coalescence sword technique. Are you going to hand it over or not?" Chu Li shook his head and said, "I won't hand over the sword technique. You should just give up." "Then let's see who's more capable," Peng Chenghua said with a smile. His long and narrow eyes emitted a cold glint. He suddenly raised the tip of his sword and was about to slash Chu Li's shoulders and break his arms. "Stop!" a delicate voice suddenly shouted. Chu Li narrowed his eyes. He did not expect Qin Mengyun to appear here. Qin Mengyun was dressed in an emerald green gown. She floated down like a green cloud. Her face was covered with a white veil, revealing only a pair of bright eyes. Even so, the graceful figure under the emerald green gown was alluring enough. Peng Chenghua looked at her from head to toe and asked, "Who are you?" "Qin Mengyun from the butterfly dance sect." Qin Mengyun scoffed and said, "Who are you?" "Peng Chenghua from the Tianfeng sect." Peng Chenghua shook his head and said, "Do you know this person, Miss Qin?" "I don't." Qin Mengyun said, "Although I don't know him, I know that you've gone too far. How could you force a person who's about to die like this? You're inhumane." "Ha ha!" Peng Chenghua laughed and said, "So Miss Qin has a bodhisattva's heart." Qin Mengyun said, "No matter what, you shouldn't have done this. Let him go." She did not recognize Chu Li, but she could not bear to see him like this. If she did not do anything, she would feel uneasy and would feel guilty for the rest of her life. Instead, she could only bite the bullet and do something about it. Peng Chenghua was not an ordinary person. "What if I don't let him go?" Peng Chenghua laughed and said, "Are you going to fight me, Miss Qin?" "That's right." Qin Mengyun scoffed and said, "If you're stubborn, I'll have no choice but to fight you." "Can Miss Qin defeat me?" Peng Chenghua was puzzled. "As far as I know, it doesn't seem possible, right?" "You won't know until you try." Qin Mengyun said, "Let him go first. I'll cut off his left and right arms first." Peng Chenghua said as he shook his long sword and slashed it at Chu Li's right arm. Chu Li almost wanted to channel the sacrificial divine power to attack. Whether he could survive or not, he had to kill this guy first. At this moment, a soft moan was heard. This soft moan was like a whisper in one's ear before one fell asleep. It was gentle and intimate. When one heard this moan, one would feel an inexplicable sense of love. One would not want to kill anyone, and they would love each other. Chu Li's body trembled. Fortunately, the Mahavairokkana in the void of his mind opened his eyes and started chanting the immobility scripture. Otherwise, he would have passed out and would never wake up again. Peng Chenghua's sword force instantly weakened. He withdrew his sword and looked at Qin Mengyun. "What a powerful cloud dragon roar!" Qin Mengyun scoffed. As soon as this light snort entered Peng Chenghua's mind, all the pores on his body opened up. He felt refreshed, excited, and happy. He suddenly felt that his behavior was indeed inappropriate. It was too dark and not open and magnanimous enough. Qin Mengyun said, "Young Master Peng, just let me have him." Her voice was calm and gentle. It sounded like an instruction, but it also sounded like an order. Peng Chenghua could not think of disobeying her at all. He could not wait to agree to it. Every inch of his body wanted to agree, but a trace of rationality made him feel that something was wrong. He struggled to open his mouth and agree to it. Instead, he looked at Qin Mengyun with a surprised expression. Qin Mengyun was also slightly surprised. She did not expect Peng Chenghua to be able to resist the cloud dragon roar. This was one of the most powerful heart techniques in the dancing butterfly sect. It was shockingly powerful. She rarely used it because it consumed a lot of energy. After using it, she would be dispirited for more than 10 days. "Young Master Peng?" Qin Mengyun called out again and channeled the heart technique even more fiercely. "Sigh." Peng Chenghua shook his head. "Forget it. Please, Miss Qin." Qin Mengyun smiled gently and curtsied. "Thank you, young Master Peng." Peng Chenghua shook his head. "Who asked me to encounter Miss Qin? I can't withstand the cloud dragon roar." The cloud dragon roar was not a bewitching technique. It only stimulated the bright side of the other party and made them feel protective of the fairer sex. It was a display of manliness. Therefore, Peng Chenghua was clear-headed and knew what to do. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.